Chapter 211. Spatial Stone. One piece was worth 1 billion 8th grade holy stones. There was a price, but no supply. The corner of Wang Kai's mouth twitched when he heard that. He looked at the 7-colored stone with eager eyes. He felt an itch in his heart. He had an impulse to take the space stone away. With this stone, would he still need to worry about alchemy materials in the future? Your Highness, there's only one piece of this spatial stone in the southern region's treasure trove city. Without the power of this stone, you will not be able to reach the northern region in an instant. Hao Ren hurriedly cupped his fists and reminded him. How could he not see Wang Kai's intention? He was afraid that he would really take the spatial stone away. Hearing this, Wang Kai's brow suddenly rose, a look of disdain on his face as he placed his hands behind his back and lightly said, "It's just a trivial space stone. Even the floor of this young master's house is paved with space stones. I just didn't expect it to be so precious outside of Fan Province." If I had known earlier, I would have brought 1,000 pieces. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Hao Ren's face stiffened when he heard that. He smiled and nodded. That's right. Your Highness is extremely wealthy. Your wealth can rival a country. Hao Ren. Some things don't always have to be mentioned. It's too ostentatious. Fortunately, it's just the two of us here. Next time, remember that life needs to be low-key. If you're too high profile, it will often attract envy, jealousy, and hatred. Wang Kai shook his head as if he had experienced countless vicissitudes of life. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Hao Ren hurriedly cupped his fists and said yes. He was really impressed by Wang Kai in his heart. He could even brag so seriously. How do I teleport? Wang Kai asked calmly. Then, under Hao Ren's guidance, Wang Kai stood in the center of the platform, and a 7-colored light suddenly enveloped his body. Wang Kai's body gradually disappeared from his feet. This scene surprised Wang Kai. Whoosh! When his body completely disappeared, Wang Kai only felt his body float. When he stabilized again, he was surprised to find that he was in the same place as the stone room he had been in. Welcome, Your Highness. That has been waiting for a long time. Suddenly, an extremely simple and honest voice sounded from the side, causing Wang Kai to raise his eyebrows and turn his head to look over curiously. Duan Daod, why have you come to the Demon Continent? Wang Kai asked with a surprised smile. Duan Daod was still as tall and sturdy as before. His skin was tanned, and he had thick eyebrows and big eyes. His expression was extremely sincere. He scratched his head and said embarrassedly in a muffled voice, Your Highness, you must be joking. The Empress saw that I was a sincere person and allowed me to assist Your Highness. It was indeed quite sincere. Wang Kai shrugged when he heard this. He stepped out of the array platform with his hands behind his back and asked faintly, Is this the treasure trove city in the northern region? Yes, because of the Myriad Demon Conference, there have been a lot of cultivators coming and going in the city recently. If Your Highness wants to go to the Black Tortoise Mountain, I'm afraid you can only go to the Demon Hunter League to find some helpers. Duan Daod said in a muffled voice. Demon Hunter League? Wang Kai was stunned. He frowned and asked puzzledly, The experts in the Treasure Trove Tower should not be weaker than the Saint Realm, right? If that's the case, why do you need to find others to help? Isn't it superfluous? Your Highness, even if the experts in the Treasure Trove Tower are strong enough, they don't know much about the Black Tortoise Mountain Range in the northern region. They are only responsible for guarding the tower and have never left. Duan Daod said, Don't know much. Then there's no other way. Wang Kai suddenly felt speechless. Where's the Ox Head Ridge that Emperor Fan mentioned? There are countless mountains in the Black Tortoise Mountain Range. Without a familiar guide, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to find the unknown Ox Head Ridge. Is there any way to contact the Empress? Ben Xiao has something to say to her. Wang Kai said with a frown. It was really not a good idea to continue searching like this. Duan Daod scratched his head and said with a simple and honest smile, Your Highness's identity token can directly communicate with the Empress, as long as you inject your mind into it. As long as it belongs to someone recognized by the Treasure Trove Tower or a branch of the Treasure Trove Tower, you can communicate with the other party by injecting your mind into it. Wang Kai's face suddenly stiffened when he heard this. He did not expect the Emperor Fan token to have such a use. If he had known, would he have gone through so much trouble? Whoosh! With a flip of his hand, Wang Kai took out the 7-colored Monarch Fan token and infused his will into it. Good sworn sister, can you hear me? Wang Kai, you are so rude. If you can't get the 5 Emperor token back, I won't let you go. Before Wang Kai could finish speaking, a thought came out of the Emperor Fan token and directly into Wang Kai's mind. Hearing the mocking voice, Wang Kai's face suddenly darkened. He smiled viciously and said, Good sister, it's not a good thing to threaten me like this. It's just the 5 Emperor token. Isn't it easy to get it? When the time comes, are you ready to be hung up and beaten by me? Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Easy to get it. Speak, why are you looking for me? Where exactly is the Ox Head Ridge in the Black Tortoise Mountain? I can't interfere in this matter. The Treasure Trove Tower can't help you. The 5 Emperor token involves too much. Everything depends on you. Buzz. As soon as the voice fell, the Emperor Fan token's light disappeared. No matter how Wang Kai injected his mind into it, he could no longer get a response. Little girl, if Bin Xiao doesn't beat you until you beg for mercy in the future, Bin Xiao won't be called the bragging god. Wang Kai spat viciously. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the 7th grade Saint Realm. Your Highness, I'm too weak. Otherwise, I would have gone with you to repay your kindness, Duan Dowd said with a face full of shame. A quasi-emperor expert was naturally nothing in the North region, where thousands of demons gathered and was known as the strongest. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and said with a faint smile, Dowd, you may not know Ben Xiao's ability. Even a pantheon of demons has to bow their heads and greet Ben Xiao when they see him in the North region. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Duan Dowd's expression immediately became very interesting. He immediately prostrated himself in admiration and said, Emperor's Highness is so powerful. This little one is full of admiration. A few days ago, Emperor's Highness killed many young sovereigns. This little one has long heard about it. Emperor's Highness is really a peerless genius. Looking at him, he seemed to really believe that Wang Kai had such ability. Dowd, you're really good. You're much better than Hao Run in some aspects. Wang Kai nodded and smiled in appreciation. Of course, he's just a cunning and despicable villain. Duan Dowd immediately snorted with disdain. It was obvious that he still had a deep grudge against Hao Run. Wang Kai saw this, and the corners of his mouth twitched. He held back his laughter and said lightly, Where is the Demon Hunter League? Who built it? Wang Kai's #1 follower and the awesome Nyoja Tian was about to appear. A first-class enemy would appear soon. Please look forward to it. Chapter 212. Your Highness, the Demon Hunter League was not established by anyone. It was a gathering of many rogue cultivators who were hired by others with a high price. Their main purpose was to protect and guide the way, Duan Dowd said. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows. It seemed like the rogue cultivators did this to obtain some cultivation resources. After all, they did not have the support of any forces. They had to rely on themselves for cultivation. Are those rogue cultivators familiar with the Black Tortoise Mountain Range? Wang Kai asked curiously. Duan Dowd's face suddenly turned serious. He said with admiration, Your Highness, you may not know this, but those rogue cultivators do not rely on the support of any forces. They gamble with their lives. They often wander around the Black Tortoise Mountain Range and various locations in the North region. They are very familiar with each location and the number of demonic beasts that exist. Humans die for wealth, and birds die for food. If rogue cultivators wanted to cultivate, they would have to pay more. It was the same for ordinary people. They had to give up some things in order to survive. Although Wang Kai admired those rogue cultivators, he did not sympathize with them. The path was chosen by oneself. As for whether one gave up halfway or reached the end, it was all up to one's will. Yes, Dowd. Prepare 100 million 8th grade saint stones for Ben Shao, Wang Kai said with a faint smile. Duan Dowd's face stiffened. He said with difficulty, Your Highness, I really want to help you, but Your Highness has already used 100 million spirit stones. The Endless Treasures Pavilion has also recorded it. If you want to use another 100 million 8th grade saint stones, you'll have to wait until next year. Only 100 million 8th grade saint stones a year? If he did not kill Huyan Outing, he would only be able to use 50 million 8th grade saint stones a year. Wang Kai was speechless. He shrugged and said with a faint smile, Then how many spirit stones do the other two princes have left? Your Highness, the Great Prince and the Second Prince have not used a single spirit stone. It has been like this for many years. In order to gain the Emperor's praise, they rarely use the Endless Treasures Pavilion's spirit stones, Duan Dowd said. Not a single spirit stone? Wasn't that undoubtedly an idiot? As far as Wang Kai was concerned, if he didn't utilize a mountain of treasures like the treasure-gathering pavilion, then wouldn't he be no different from a fool? If he wanted to gain more favor from the treasure trove pavilion, it would be better to rely on his strength to become the only emperor or holy son. Wang Kai snorted disdainfully and said with a faint smile, That's good. Give all the spiritual stones of the other two princes to Ben Shao. If Emperor Fan asks, or if the other two princes are dissatisfied, they can come here to find Ben Shao. The reason is that, from now on, Treasure Trove Pavilion only has one prince, Ben Shao. No, Your Highness, please don't make things difficult for Dowd. I definitely can't do something that goes against the rules. Unless Your Highness can kill the first prince and second prince now, Dowd definitely can't use the spirit stones without permission. Duan Dowd shook his head violently with a simple and honest expression. When Wang Kai saw this, the corner of his mouth twitched violently. It was a blessing for the Treasure Trove Pavilion that this person could be as honest as Duan Dowd. However, it was indeed difficult to be satisfied with such an approach. Ahem, did Dao think about it? Isn't this prince very awesome? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and smiled as he tried to persuade him. Duan Dowd didn't hesitate at all when he heard this. He immediately cupped his fists and said respectfully, Your Highness, you killed many talents in the Buddha continent and suppressed many young supremes when you came to the demon continent. Even the third prince, who has reached the sage realm, is no match for you. Your Highness, I admire your strength. Ha! Do you think the first prince and second prince will be a match for Ben Shao? Wang Kai continued to ask with a faint smile. When he heard this, Duan Dowd was shocked. He immediately shook his head and said, Of course not. They are only at the peak of the great emperor realm. Even if they have reached the sage realm, they will definitely not be a match for you. If that's the case, do they have a chance of surviving if they fight with Ben Shao for the position of the only emperor? Wang Kai said with a faint smile. Plop. At this moment, Duan Dowd finally understood. He immediately knelt on one knee with a troubled expression and cupped his fists respectfully. I hope Your Highness will forgive me. If the first prince and second prince are still here, I really can't violate the rules and use spiritual stones. Damn it, what a waste of my words. Wang Kai suddenly felt a sense of nostalgia for Hao Run. He couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. He waved his hand and said, Get up. Ben Shao won't make things difficult for you. Bring Ben Shao to the Demon Hunter Union. Thinking about it, he still had 50 million 8th grade sacred stones left. It should be enough, right? Thank you, Your Highness. Duan Dowd wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead and hurriedly led the way. Seeing this scene, Wang Kai felt more and more angry. Honesty and trustworthiness were the principles of Duan Dowd's life. This was what made him so cute. However, even though this kind of person was very good, it was indeed very infuriating. At the gate of Treasure Trove City, there were no buildings around. There were only countless rogue cultivators sitting cross-legged on the ground in meditation. Young powerhouses and powerhouses of various sizes came and went, choosing rogue cultivators that they admired to hire. Wang Kai had his hands behind his back. He glanced around with a rather indifferent expression. He saw that the weakest rogue cultivator powerhouses here were at the Great Emperor realm, and the strongest had reached the Saint King realm. However, they stopped at the Saint King realm. There were no stronger rogue cultivators here. However, although there were Saint Kings, there were not many of them. Moreover, the price was extremely high. In front of them stood a sign with rows of flamboyant words carved on it. Guard 100 million 8th grade spiritual stones, 1 month of duty. Guide 50 million 8th grade spiritual stones, 1 month of duty. If you exceed the 1-month time limit, additional spiritual stones will be added. In the area of the Saint realm, the sign setup was more than half of that of the Saint King realm. The rogue cultivators at the Great Emperor realm were half of that of the Saint realm. Your Highness, Dowd's opinion is that it is better to hire a Saint King realm powerhouse. There are many Demon Clan forces in the Black Tortoise Mountain Range. If you want to ensure safety, you need a Saint King realm powerhouse, Duan Dowd said. Wang Kai's mouth twitched when he heard this. Just the Saint King realm powerhouse needed 50 million 8th grade spiritual stones to lead the way. With the addition of the guard, wouldn't it be 150 million? Dowd, a mere 8th grade spiritual stone is nothing to Ben Shao. He can take out hundreds of billions of spiritual stones, but it also depends on where it is used. What Ben Shao needs now is a rogue cultivator who can find Oxhead Ridge, Wang Kai said with a faint smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have gained 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. So simple. Your Highness, please wait for a moment. Under Wang Kai's puzzled gaze, Duan Dowd went directly to the center of the rogue cultivators and shouted at the top of his voice, "My young master wants to go to Oxhead Ridge in the Black Tortoise Mountain Range. He needs a rogue cultivator to lead the way. Does anyone know? This Duan Dowd. Does he want the world to know that Ben Shao is going to Oxhead Ridge? Ben Shao is not going there for sightseeing." Wang Kai's face suddenly darkened. He was really shocked by Duan Dowd's character. Thank you, fellow Taoists. Chapter 213. Ground Shrink. Whoosh. Wang Kai took a step forward, and his body immediately disappeared. He turned into a white shadow and came to the corner of the city. Looking at Duan Dowd, who was surrounded by loose practitioners, Wang Kai sighed helplessly. Little brother, do you want to hire loose practitioners? Suddenly, a deep voice sounded, causing Wang Kai to raise his eyebrows. He could not help but turn around and see a bearded, middle-aged man in armor looking at him expectantly. Behind the big man, there was a wooden cart parked. On the cart sat a woman dressed in simple green clothes. She looked to be about 18 or 19 years old. Although her face was not peerless, she could be called a pretty girl from a humble family. However, in her bright eyes, there was sadness. Big brother Lin, don't waste your energy. Sister Hanyua's legs are disabled, and big brother still wants to take her with him. No one will hire us. Beside the wooden cart, on a small stool, sat a young man in his 20s, grumbling with a face full of complaints. The moment these words were spoken, it immediately caused the green-clothed female on the wooden carriage to frown. Tears swirled in her eyes as she tightly pursed her lips and said with a trembling voice, "Second brother Zhao is right. Big brother, let me stay at home. You will feel better if you go out. Don't worry, I will take care of myself." Nonsense. You can't move freely. How can I leave you alone at home? If no one wants to hire us, Big brother will find a way to cure your legs. Lin Han Tian pretended to be angry and glared at her. He then looked at the young man and said indifferently, "Brother Zhao, you and I became sworn brothers years ago. We will share our joys and sorrows. If you really don't want to be with us, brother and sister, you can leave on your own. I won't blame you." No, no, no. Big brother Lin, what are you talking about? If it wasn't for Big brother's help, I wouldn't be alive now, Zhao Xian quickly said with a smile. Lin Han Tian heard this, and a look of relief flashed across his eyes. He smiled stiffly and said, "Second brother, don't worry. When third sister's illness is cured, we will get better and better. Yes, little brother will definitely advance and retreat together with big brother, Zhao Xian said with a solemn expression. Wang Kai could not help but raise his eyebrows when he saw this scene. He looked at them curiously and smiled faintly. Do you know where Oxhead Ridge is? Whoosh! As soon as he said that, Lin Han and the other two were stunned. Little brother, are you willing to hire us? Lin Han asked eagerly. Wang Kai nodded his head and glanced at the signboard they had put up. He smiled and said, 2 saints at the peak of the 9th grade saint realm. You will only be a guide and not a guard. You will need a total of 10 million 8th grade spiritual stones. If you really know where the Oxhead Ridge is, Bin Xiao is willing to hire you. According to the requirements of other saints, Lin Hantian's asking price was simply too low. It was so low that it was almost the same price as a great Emperor Realm cultivator. Little brother, I need to take my sister with me. I wonder, Lin Han said with a smile, nodding and bowing respectfully. It was hard to imagine that a saint expert with such a tall and sturdy figure would actually behave in such a submissive manner. Although Wang Kai was not a kind person, he couldn't help but be touched by this scene. Since they knew where the Oxhead Ridge was, why not do it for their mutual benefit? Finally, under Lin Hantian's expectant and nervous gaze, Wang Kai nodded his head gently and smiled. No problem. But are you not afraid that she will encounter danger on the way out? If you don't mind, Bin Xiao can pay more spiritual stones and hire someone to take care of her for a few days. Although the Saint Realm was not bad, walking in the Black Tortoise Mountains with a weak girl who could not move freely was too dangerous. No. Thank you for your kindness, little brother, but please take my sister with you. If you leave her in someone else's care, I will not be able to rest assured. Lin Hantian's face was a little unnatural as he waved his hand and refused. It was not that he had never asked someone to take care of her before, but there were several times when Lin Hanyue's condition had almost worsened and she had suffered many grievances. Even if Lin Hanyue did not say it, as her elder brother, he could see it. Wang Kai casually shrugged his shoulders and smiled faintly. If that is the case, then let's go. Good. Thank you so much, little brother. Lin Han thanked him excitedly and turned around to push the wooden cart. Zhao Xian, who was on the side, saw this and stepped forward with a smile. Big brother, let me do it. Thank you, young master. I have nothing to repay you with. As the wooden carriage slowly moved, the girl in the carriage, Lin Hanyue, looked gratefully at Wang Kai. Her eyes overflowed with tears, but she still had a happy smile on her face. Wang Kai saw this and nodded with a smile. He turned and walked with his hands behind his back, looking confident and at ease. When they walked out of the district where the Demon Hunter League was located, he could not help but pause. He thought for a moment and said, "Let's change to a faster carriage." There is no need for that. Once we are out of Jubao City, second brother and I, one in front and one behind, can carry the wooden carriage and walk on air. The speed will not be too slow, and the Bullhead Ridge is not far from here. We can reach it before dusk. Lin Han said with a smile. Wang Kai heard this and raised an eyebrow. He wanted to say that he wanted to ride in the carriage himself, but he had to give up on the idea. He smiled and nodded. That would be good. The Black Tortoise Mountains were not far from Jubao City. It was only 100 miles away. The mountains were steep and winding, green and lush, and the roars of monsters could be heard. Wang Kai and the others walked on air, and their speed was not slow. Since they had nothing to do, they could not help but look at Lin Hanyue on the carriage and ask with a smile, "I wonder if Miss Lin's legs were a natural problem, or were they acquired? You don't have to be so courteous. You can call me Hanyue. My legs were not natural. It was an unfortunate accident when I fell into the icy regions of the Xing Luo Sea during an adventure. The icy poison invaded my legs. Fortunately, my brother discovered it in time, and I did not lose my life." Lin Hanyue smiled and looked at her brother, who was carrying the carriage in front of her. Her eyes were full of guilt and apology. Wang Kai heard this and raised an eyebrow. He did not expect the Xing Luo Sea to have such an icy region. He just did not know what the so-called icy poison was. Out of curiosity, He could not help but reach out and place his hand on Lin Hanyue's leg. Ah! Lin Hanyue saw this, and her face turned red. She could not help but gasp. Although she did not feel it, she saw it with her own eyes. She was embarrassed and could only lower her head and purse her lips, not daring to make a sound. She was afraid that she would anger Wang Kai and cause this cooperation to fail. Zhao Xian, who was carrying the carriage in the back, did not say anything. He pretended not to see and turned his head away. "Sister, what are you doing?" Whoosh! Lin Hantian, who was in front, turned his head and saw Wang Kai pinching Lin Hanyue's leg. He was so angry that his face turned green. He stopped abruptly and scolded harshly. Chapter 214. Wang Kai frowned slightly as he sensed the cold air in Lin Hanyue's legs. Suddenly, he felt a very familiar feeling. Although he could not remember what it was, he was certain that this cold air was not an ordinary cold poison. Whoosh! Sorry, Ben Xiao is very interested in the world's strange poisons. That's why. Wang Kai wanted to give a perfunctory explanation, but halfway through his words, his eyebrows suddenly furrowed, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Strange fire. The cold air in Lin Hanyue's legs, although not strong, was definitely the 9 Serenities cold flame controlled by Ming Yi, ranked 3rd on the list of strange fires. Although Wang Kai did not know anything about the Tao of medicine, he had a strange flame in his body. Furthermore, from the spreading trend of the 9 nether cold flame, he could feel that this woman was not far from being paralyzed or even dying. I hope you can show some respect. Up ahead is the Oxhead Ridge. Brother Zhao, come forward and lead the way. Lin Hantian's face was ashen, and he snorted coldly. He did not believe Wang Kai's words about strange poisons. How could such a young boy study such strange poisons? He was just taking advantage of the situation. Immediately, Zhao Xian lifted the carriage in front, and Lin Hantian followed behind, but his big eyes were fixed on Wang Kai's every move. Wang Kai saw this and suddenly raised his eyebrows. He had wanted to help them. After all, he had the dustless fire, and it would not be difficult to get rid of the 9 Serenities cold flame. But now, he had to give up on this idea. As the saying goes, if it doesn't concern you, don't care. Moreover, from the way they dressed, it was very simple, and their temperament was not outstanding. It was hard to imagine how they were related to Ming Yi. Ming Yi was the son of Ming Di of the underworld state, the king of hell of the Holy King realm. If they continued to investigate, who knew what kind of trouble they would be involved in? After a few hours, Zhao Xian and Lin Hantian stopped at the same time, and Lin Hanyue, who was in the carriage, secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they did not encounter any danger along the way. Below us is the Oxhead Ridge, Lin Hantian said flatly. Wang Kai smiled when he heard that. He looked down and saw that the mountain ridge was indeed shaped like a bull's head. In the center of the mountain ridge, there was also a peak shaped like a bull's head. Whoosh! With a flip of his hand, Wang Kai took out a spatial ring. There were exactly 10 million 8th grade saint stones in it. He placed it beside the wooden cart and floated towards the Oxhead Mountain with his hands behind his back. Big brother, is there a mistake with the number of spirit stones? Zhao Xian asked with narrowed eyes. Lin Hantian held the space ring in his hand, and after examining it for a while, he shook his head and said, "There are no mistakes. With this, we should be able to heal my sister's legs. Let's go back and find some alchemy materials from the trove of treasures building." "Eldest brother," said Zhao Xian, his face cold. "That kid is so young, but he didn't even frown when he took out 10 million grade, 8 spirit stones. And just now he was so rude to third sister. Why don't we? No." However, before Lin Hantian could open his mouth, Lin Hanyue, who was on the wooden cart, refused with a serious face. She looked straight at Lin Hantian, her eyes full of determination. Lin Hantian sighed and said lightly, "Third sister is right. You and I are now both rogue cultivators. If we commit the crime of robbing our employer, I'm afraid that in the world of rogue cultivators, we will be removed from the list." "Eldest brother, you're right. I was stupid," Zhao Xian quickly said with a smile. There was a hint of disdain in his eyes. Oxhead Mountain. It was shaped like a bull's head, and the peak of the mountain was held up by two bull horns. When Wang Kai floated to the top of the mountain, he suddenly realized that this was not a mountain. It was obviously a huge bull's skull. Even though he had seen countless monsters with huge bodies, the skull of a bull demon was as big as a mountain. What was even more strange was that it was covered with trees and grass. This surprised Wang Kai. Ahem, this bull's skull. Could it be that it belonged in Yozhatian? Could it be that he already died here? Wang Kai smacked his lips and muttered uncertainly. Ow, ow! Suddenly, a roar that contained boundless rage resounded out, and it reverberated in the mountain range. It caused Wang Kai's brows to instantly raise, and he immediately soared through the air and floated down to the top of the ox skull. In front of him, in an open space without any trees, there were dozens of demon wolves with silver-white fur, surrounding something in a circle. Wang Kai squinted his eyes curiously and looked through the gap. When he saw what the demon wolves were attacking, his eyes suddenly bulged. In the circle of demon wolves, there was a black bull demon. Its body was the size of a normal bull, and there was nothing special about its appearance. It looked extremely ordinary. At this moment, the bull demon was snorting with its eyes closed. Its black tail swayed up and down and slapped the ground. Its rhythmic breathing sounded as if it was asleep. Ow, ow! Xiao, xiao! Xiao, xiao! In an instant, 5 to 6 demonic wolves let out a low roar. Immediately, they leaped up and arrived around the demonic cow. They opened their dense mouths, and their teeth, which were flickering with a cold glint, viciously bit at various parts of the demonic cow's body. Crack! Crack! Ow, ow, ow! There was a continuous crisp sound, and the teeth of the 5 or 6 demon wolves were immediately shattered. Blood flowed out from their mouths, and the demon wolves howled in pain. Looking at the bull demon's body, there was no sign of being bitten, not even a bite mark. It was still lying on the ground, panting, and its breathing rhythm was not the slightest bit disorderly. It was as if it did not feel anything at all, or as if it did not put the demon wolves in its eyes. Xiao, xiao! Xiao, xiao! Ow, ow! Ow, ow! Then many demon wolves came forward, and instead of biting with their teeth, they tore with their claws. But in the end, there was a continuous crisp sound, and the claws of the demon wolves were all shattered. Such a situation immediately caused the demon wolves to become extremely terrified. They screamed miserably and scattered like birds and beasts. I can't see its cultivation level. Its aura is ordinary, and it doesn't seem to be a Saint Realm expert. Interesting. Wang Kai's eyes flashed slightly, and he walked toward the bull demon curiously. Inside the Tower of Babel, Lord Cat saw the scene just now. At this moment, he could not help but stroke his long beard in praise. I didn't expect the demon prefecture to have such a great demon. Although those demon wolves were not strong, they were still at the great emperor level. Their teeth were so sharp that even a saint would be bitten by them. Kid, you have to be careful. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and smiled indifferently. Are your injuries okay? Now that Cat Grandpa is acting as the artifact spirit in Tong Tian Tower, his injuries are naturally recovering very quickly. If he were to take a hit from Blue Luan with his main body, I'm afraid that Cat Grandpa would be seriously injured for another few decades. Cat Grandpa stroked his long beard and sighed. Human, get out of Lord Cow's territory immediately. Don't ask for a reason. Lord Cow is very powerful, and you can't afford to offend me. Suddenly, the bull demon raised its neck, and a pair of bell-sized eyes stared at Wang Kai with disdain. Chapter 215. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows. He smiled and said, Bin Xiao has been out of the 3 worlds since he was a child. Even the 4 beasts have to kneel before Bin Xiao. They are willing to be Bin Xiao's mounts. Is there anyone in this world that Bin Xiao can't afford to offend? Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Before Nyoja Tian could say anything, Wang Kai smiled and said, There is no one in this world that Bin Xiao can't afford to offend. In fact, No one has ever dared to offend Ben Shao. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Neojition snorted and crouched on the ground. He said disdainfully, "Human boy, don't you think it's ridiculous to brag in front of Master Neo? Get the hell out of here. Master Neo is in a good mood today. I don't want to use force." Neojition was really a monster ox. Wang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly as he walked towards him with his hands behind his back. He sat down cross-legged on the ground and took out a few 8th grade saint pills with a flip of his hand. He popped them into his mouth and chewed them. Neojition smelled the fragrance of the pills and heard Wang Kai's chewing sounds. He raised his head and looked at Wang Kai. He asked, "Human, did you eat a saint pill? A heavenly grade saint pill?" It seemed that no matter how strong he was, he couldn't avoid it. Wang Kaiman shrugged nonchalantly. He casually flicked his fingers and tossed 2 over. He smiled faintly and said, "Won't you know once you try it?" Shua. Neojition didn't care if the pills were poisonous or not. He stuck out his tongue and swallowed them. Bang! In a flash, Neojition stood up and walked around Wang Kai. After a while, he said, "Human, hand over all your holy pills. I have already cast a spell on you. If you don't hand them over, you'll never be able to leave. Don't move or you'll die." Wang Kai's expression suddenly stiffened when he heard this. His eyes flickered rapidly. For a moment, he was somewhat uncertain. "Brat, don't listen to his nonsense. There's no formation here. He's just fooling you. In my opinion, this bull demon only has a strong defense, but it shouldn't have any offensive ability. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to fight back when it was bitten by the wolves. Now that it has seen the divine pill, it clearly wants it, but it doesn't dare to use force to snatch it." Cat narrowed its eyes and analyzed as it stroked its long whiskers. Indeed, if Neojition didn't care about the wolves before, what about now? He could have just subdued Wang Kai and taken away the pills. But he didn't. Instead, he deliberately said that he had cast a spell. "You Neojition, right?" Wang Kai said indifferently. He put another holy pill into his mouth, chewed it, and spat it out. Neojition's face became distorted when he saw this. He opened his big black eyes and shouted, "That's right. I'm your grandpa Neo. Hand over all your holy pills." Crunch, crunch. Wang Kai looked indifferent as he chewed the holy pills. Then, he slowly stood up. When he was about to leave the circle, Neojition kicked his hind legs and used his horns to attack him. 8 desolation palm print. Buzz, bang, rumble. In a flash, a huge cyan palm print fell from the sky and slammed Neojition into the ground. When the dust dissipated, a bottomless pit appeared in front of them. Hee. As expected, you're just trying to be mysterious. If you were really that strong, why couldn't you even block one of Benshao's palms? Wang Kai said with a disdainful smile. Swish, crackle. Neojition came out of the crater and landed on the ground. His body was shaking and cracking sounds could be heard. "Human, do you know how strong I am now? You want to hurt Grandpa Neo with that little bit of strength of yours? You're really stupid and ignorant. If you hand over all your holy pills, I could teach you a thing or two," Neojition said proudly. Wang Kai couldn't help but laugh. He nodded and said, "Yes, Ben Shao already knows how strong you are. You're only strong in defense. As for your attack, it's bullshit." "Moo, moo," Neojition shouted angrily. "Human, if you can dodge my attacks, I can teach you a thing or two. He come, Ben Shao won't hit you." Wang Kai shrugged and smiled. Swish. Neojition's silhouette turned into a black shadow. Wang Kai's pupils shrank when he saw how fast he was. He hastily dodged and said, "Distance shrinking." Swish. Wang Kai turned into a shadow and ran a few hundred meters to the left. Neojition suddenly rose up in the air and snorted. Then he disappeared into the horizon. Is he trying to run away? Seeing this, Wang Kai rubbed his nose, put his hands behind his back, and smiled faintly. So close, yet so far. Swish! Wang Kai's silhouette pierced through a shadow and disappeared into the horizon in an instant. Wang Kai's silhouette was still on top of the Oxhead Mountain. He stood there with his hands behind his back, unmoving. Wang Kai appeared 3,000 miles away and blocked Niu Zetian's path. Niu Zetian's speed was fast, but he couldn't last long. His attacks were weak, but his defense was strong. Niu Zetian, I won't hide anything from you. My agility skill is called So Close, Yet Worlds Apart. It allows me to travel 10,000 miles in the blink of an eye. It also allows me to travel 1,000 miles in the blink of an eye. It doesn't matter if you're on the ground or in the air. With your strength, you won't be able to escape from me. Niu Zetian was gasping for breath in the air. His big black eyes were rolling in his head. Human boy, why did you come to see me? Niu Zetian asked suddenly. Wang Kai shrugged and appeared in front of Niu Zetian. He grabbed Niu Zetian's horn and smiled. Let's go back and talk. So close, yet so far. Swish! Niu Zetian couldn't believe his eyes. In a flash, they were back on the Oxhead Mountain. Wang Kai, who had been standing there motionlessly, smiled and said, Niu Zetian, hand over the 5 Emperors token. The 5 Emperors token. Niu Zetian was startled, but he quickly came back to his senses. He snorted disdainfully and fell to the ground. He closed his eyes and said indifferently, Human, I don't know what the 5 Emperors Dao plate is. You should piss off. Do you really think this young master can't do anything to you? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes when he saw this and looked at him with a rather playful smile. However, Niu Zetian was still breathing. He didn't care. Chapter 216. Since your highness is acquainted with them, Dowd will not hide the truth. Brother Lin had just purchased 10 sets of Saint-grade alchemy materials through the treasure trove building, but in the end he was short of 100,000 8th-grade spirit stones, so Dowd took the liberty of paying for them. I hope your highness will forgive me, Duan Dowd said respectfully. Although it was a confession, from his appearance there was no sign of guilt. It was as if he felt that paying for the materials was something he should do. Wang Kai could not help but raise his eyebrows when he saw this. He secretly thought that Duan Dowd was honest but not flexible. Where he should have broken the rules, he did not dare to do so. Where he should not have broken the rules, he did not even acknowledge his mistakes. However, Wang Kai was too lazy to pay attention to this. Instead, he looked at Lin Hantian curiously and asked, Bin Xiao had already given you 10 million 8th-grade spirit stones. Why can't you even afford 10 8th-grade alchemy materials? Could it be that you lost them on the way? As soon as he said this, Duan Dowd's eyes widened. He glared at Lin Hantian with an unfriendly expression and scolded him harshly. Lin Hantian, I treat you as a brother. I saw that you were in trouble, so I paid for the missing spirit stones from my own pocket. Who would have thought that you would lie to me? Whoosh! Lin Hantian's face suddenly changed, and he quickly bowed and said, My Imperial Highness, Steward Duan, you've misunderstood. I do have 10 million spirit stones of the 8th rank, but those spirit stones were all used to hire alchemists to refine elixirs, so Duan Dowd was stunned when he heard this. He immediately scratched his head and said in an embarrassed manner, So that's how it is. I have misunderstood, Brother Lin. Please don't take it to heart. No, Lin Hantian will never forget Steward Duan's kindness. Lin Hantian quickly bowed. Refining elixirs required 10 million 8th-grade spirit stones. Were alchemist spirit stones so easy to come by? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and looked a little excited. He then asked curiously, You have bought a total of 10 materials. That is to say, you need the alchemist to refine 10 elixirs for you? That's a total of 10 million 8th-grade spirit stones, right? No, Imperial Highness, you don't know. No one knows whether or not one pill will appear with 10 million spirit stones. Furthermore, 10 million spirit stones is only the cost of the pill. Even if a pill does appear, we will only be given one. Lin Hantian said respectfully. Although he was still a little annoyed with Wang Kai, he had no choice but to humble himself. Refining an 8th-grade sacred pill required 10 million 8th-grade spiritual stones. Alchemy materials had to be provided by the employer. If that was the case, wouldn't all alchemists be filthy rich? Wang Kai suddenly felt that he was too stupid. If he had known this earlier, he would have refined pills for others. At that time, would he still care about the lack of spirit stones? Even if it was just for the experience he needed to break through, it would be enough. Furthermore, refining 100 8th-grade sacred pills would give him 10,000 experience points as a reward. While refining pills for others, he would also gain experience points and spirit stones. Furthermore, the other party would have to provide the materials for refining pills. Wouldn't that be super awesome? What if the pill doesn't appear? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and asked curiously. Lin Hantian's face suddenly became a little bitter. He shook his head and said with a smile, "If the pill doesn't appear, then we can only save up spirit stones again, find new materials, and ask an alchemist to refine the pill." Hiss! Wang Kai heard this and took a deep breath. He secretly thought that alchemists were really awesome. Haha. As a thank you gift for answering Ben Xiao's question, Ben Xiao will give you a piece of advice. If you want to refine pills to heal Han Yue's legs, you should give up the idea as soon as possible, lest you make a fool of yourself. Wang Kai smiled indifferently. As soon as he finished speaking, he dragged Niu Zhetian up to the 5th floor of the Trove of Treasures building. The 9 Serenity's cold flame was ranked 3rd on the list of mystical flames. It was undoubtedly a fool's dream to want to remove it with pills. In the world, only mystical flames could remove mystical flames. He's just a little boy who relies on his identity as the crown prince of the Trove of Treasures building. What's there to be proud of? Does he really think he's a genius doctor? Zhao Xian whispered disdainfully. Lin Hantian and Lin Hanyue's faces changed slightly. Their eyes flashed as they glanced at the 5th floor of the Trove of Treasures building. They lowered their heads and silently left the building. Inside the stone room, Wang Kai flipped his hand and threw Niu Zhetian to the ground. Then he raised his hand and the twigs twisted and the ropes loosened, causing Niu Zhetian's body parts to scatter. Human, you are simply too abominable. I have cultivated for tens of thousands of years and have broken my Tao 8 times. This is the 9th time. Do you know how miserable your death will be after I successfully break my Tao? Niu Zhetian scolded harshly. Cultivated for tens of thousands of years, broke his Tao 8 times? When Wang Kai heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched. Although he didn't know much about cultivation, he had never heard of the Tao breaking. Even if he had cultivated for tens of thousands of years, he would have thought that it was just bragging. Cultivating for tens of thousands of years, and in the end, it didn't even have the power to attack. Who would believe it? Haha. So what if I've cultivated for tens of thousands of years? Ben Xiao has lived in this world for hundreds of millions of years. He has seen countless strong people. Which one of them didn't respect Ben Xiao? Even the so-called head of the 4 mythical beasts, the Azure Dragon, has to respectfully call him Master Kai. You've only cultivated for tens of thousands of years, and you have the nerve to talk to Ben Xiao? Wang Kai said with a disdainful smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Niu Zhetian stared at Wang Kai and sighed. All right, I'm unlucky. You heal me, and I'll give you the 5 Emperor's Tao plate. Wang Kai nodded and said, All right, I'll give you the 5 Emperor's plates. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and looked at Niu Zhetian's body. He didn't find a space ring or anything. He smiled and said, All right, if you dare to play tricks with Ben Xiao, you won't have the chance to beg for mercy next time. Shua. Then, Wang Kai put Niu Zhetian's body back together. With the help of his battle chi, Niu Zhetian returned to his original appearance. Niu Zhetian stood up and snorted. He smiled disdainfully and said, Human, if you can speak of the 5 Emperor's Tao plate, you should know how to use it. It's not that I look down on you, but even if I give it to you, you won't be able to gain anything from it. Ben Xiao knows that. There are 5 Emperor's Tao plates. You only have one of them. Hurry up and give it to me. Whether or not Ben Xiao can get the other plates is none of your business. Wang Kai shrugged and smiled. Can anyone guess who Niu Zhetian is? Huh. Chapter 217. BZZZ. Neo opened his mouth and spat out a black card. It was the size of a palm and was completely black. It floated up and down in the air. Seeing this, Wang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly. He immediately flipped his hand and took the square card. Looking at the pattern engraved on the front, his pupils suddenly shrank. A turtle and a snake in the same body. It was the Xian Wu. On the back of the card, there was a unicorn in the middle, an azure dragon on the left, a white tiger on the right, a vermilion bird on the left, and a Xian Wu on the right. That must be the Xian Wu's card. Little boy, if possible, you should form a blood contract with Neo Xian. Although I don't know if he has really broken the 8th Tao. If he can say it, it means he is extraordinary. Besides, if you meet a great emperor, you will be able to escape, Mr. Cat said telepathically. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and put the 5 Emperor's card into his ring. Then, he said, how many bragging points do I need to form a blood contract with Neo Xian? Host, with your current cultivation level, if you want to form a blood contract with him, you will need to spend 1,000 bragging points. 1,000 bragging points. That was a lot. Wang Kai frowned. He had never spent so many bragging points before. Neo Xian didn't look strong, but he was quite strong. Human boy, my mountain has been destroyed by you. You took my card. I have nowhere to go. If you give me heaven-grade holy pills every day, I can stay and teach you, Neo Xian said. He didn't want to leave? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows. At first, he had thought about how to make him stay. He hadn't thought that Neo Xian would take the initiative to do so. It's just heaven-grade holy pills. Ben Xiao is a holy alchemist. Of course, he doesn't care about them. However, even if holy pills are useless to Ben Xiao, I can't just give them to you. Tell me what you are capable of. If Ben Xiao likes you, he will consider you, Wang Kai said with a smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Neo Xian snorted, raised his head, and said, I know a lot of ancient recipes, I know a lot of ancient formations, I know a lot of ancient techniques, I know a lot of ancient talismans. I know a lot of ancient talismans. I know everything you can think of. Neo Xian snorted and raised his head. Clap, clap, clap. The corners of Wang Kai's mouth twitched. He clapped his hands and praised. Neo Xian, you really live up to your name. You really know how to brag. Stupid human boy, I'm not bragging. If you don't believe me, you can try. Neo Xian snorted disdainfully. Wang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard this. With a playful smile, he asked, 3 yellow grass, dragon whisker, 100 wood root. What kind of pill are these? Ignorant human boy. Are you trying to humiliate me? It's just a qi gathering pill. But it's true. In the ancient times, qi gathering pills were just beginners. Not many alchemists in the world know about it. Fine, if you can satisfy Grandpa Ox, Grandpa Ox can also give you a few pill formulas that are even more powerful than the qi gathering pill. Neo Xian sneered disdainfully. If you think qi gathering pills are trash, why did you eat them so enthusiastically before? Wang Kai looked at Neo Xian disdainfully, but in his heart, he didn't think Neo Xian was lying. Neo Xian shook his head and wagged his tail. He then lay down on the ground and said, Human boy, the qi amassing pill you gave me was a level 8 holy pill. The ingredients you gave me were just the basic recipe for the qi amassing pill. Of course, you can't compare them. Neo Xian could even see through that. Neo Xian is really something. Wang Kai's heart was pounding. If he could get the ancient pill formula from Neo Xian, then as an alchemist, he would be able to make up for his lack of pill formulas. He would no longer be limited to qi convergence pills. Wang Kai shrugged and asked with a curious expression, what kind of formation can the bone of Di Ting set up under the throne of Xitigarbha of the underworld? Clap, clap. Neo Xian snorted and said lazily, the bones of Di Ting can be used to set up 316 types of spell formations. However, they all have the same function. They can be used to listen to other people's thoughts. If you have the bones of Di Ting, you can listen to other people's thoughts. Hiss. Wang Kai took a deep breath when he heard this. He had to admit that Neo Xian was quite capable. Even though he didn't know much about spell formations, he had only seen the spell that Jing Xian had set up outside the Lingtai nunnery. It was called Di Ting Sky Listening Spell. It was just as Niuzha Tian had described it to him. Do you know how to make the 9 revolutions soul return pill? Wang Kai asked. Niuzha Tian said disdainfully, 9 leaves lotus, soul returning mushroom, ghost face flower, heavenly mountain dew, 10,000-year ice. The most important thing is to have the reincarnation fire. Of course, the pure fire can also be used. At the very least, the nirvana fire of the Phoenix clan is needed. Wang Kai was astonished. Niuzha Tian was right. It was exactly the same as the recipe for the 9 revolutions soul return pill. But it was even more detailed because the recipe for the 9 revolutions soul return pill didn't have the nirvana fire. Only the pure fire and the reincarnation fire could be used to make the pill. But it made sense. Only the Phoenix clan could control the nirvana fire. How can an alchemist have it? Well, you're not bad. You barely passed the test and are qualified to follow this young master. However, what you know is still too little. Learn well from this young master in the future. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and said with a faint smile, Congratulations to the host for bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Niuzha Tian looked at him disdainfully and grunted coldly. Little boy, I'm not your servant. I'm just here to teach you. You have to give me 1,000 heaven-grade holy pellets every day. 1,000 heaven-grade divine pills every day. Wang Kai's face darkened as he glared at him. He slowly raised his hand and said, Do you really want to have your head cut off again? Niuzha Tian was so scared that he started shaking. He quickly stood up and said solemnly, Little human boy, we can talk about this. Fighting is not a gentleman's way of doing things. Chapter 2:18. 10 pills a day, no negotiation. Wang Kai said indifferently. Slap, 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 slap. Niuzha Tian snorted and said angrily. Only 10 pills? Are you insulting Grandpa Nyo? At least 900 pills a day. However, Wang Kai chose to ignore him. He smiled faintly and said, If you can produce the pill recipes I need in the future, I will reward you with 100 pills each time. No, at least 1,000 pills a day, Niuzha Tian shouted. However, Wang Kai raised his arm and looked at his palm playfully. He shook his head and sighed. Fifth brother, what should I do if he doesn't listen to me? Fifth brother? Who is that? Niuzha Tian's black eyes were wide open. He looked at Wang Kai in confusion and shouted, Human boy, are you crazy? My surname is Nyo, not Fifth. You're not qualified to call me brother. Fifth brother, what are you talking about? If he doesn't listen to me, I'll beat him? How can I beat him? His skin is rough and his flesh is thick. Even holy emperors can't hurt him. Oh, you want to use living beings / TSK, not bad, not bad. Wang Kai was still looking at his palm, nodding and praising. Swish. If Niuzha Tian didn't understand, he would be an idiot. Niuzha Tian was so scared that he shouted, Okay, 10 pills a day and 100 pills a day? You must have heaven-grade divine pills. Hearing this, Wang Kai raised his brow and shook his hand, sighing with a smile. Ah, fifth brother, you're really useful. Niuzha Tian finally understood that the fifth brother the king was talking about was his hand. That bastard is going too far. Niuzha Tian thought to himself. Emperor, Zhao Xian wants to see you. Suddenly, Duan Dao's voice came from outside the stone door. Wang Kai was surprised. Zhao Xian? Rumble. As Wang Kai waved his hand and opened the stone door, he couldn't help but frown and ask, Dada, who is this Zhao Xian you speak of? Duan Dao was stunned when he heard this. He scratched his head and was a little confused. He immediately said in a silly voice, Didn't your highness just say that they sent you to Oxhead Ridge? It's him? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and murmured curiously, Why is he looking for Ben Shao? Bring him in. Moments later, Duan Dao led Zhao Xian into the stone room. Under Wang Kai's astonished gaze, Zhao Xian actually took the initiative to sit on the stone bed, and he was sitting right next to Wang Kai. Duan Dowd raised his eyebrows when he saw this. He wanted to say something, but he didn't dare to. In his heart, he thought that their relationship should be quite good. Rumble. As the stone door closed, Zhao Xian said proudly, Wang Kai, Emperor's son, I am the deacon of the Li family, the #1 alchemist family in the Pill Field of the Sun Moon Island. My real name is Li Xian, and my alias is Zhao Xian. Wang Kai's pupils shrank as a playful smile appeared on his face, and he nodded. So it's a member of the #1 alchemy family. I wonder why Your Excellency is looking for this young master? It's very simple. I hope you won't sell any more alchemy materials to Lin Han Tian and his sister. Of course, the Li family and the Endless Treasures Pavilion have been friends for a long time, so we can't let the Endless Treasures Pavilion break the rules. As long as you tell them in private that there is a temporary shortage of alchemy materials, you just need to delay for 3 months, Zhao Xian said proudly. Delay for 3 months? The corners of Wang Kai's mouth curled up slightly when he heard this. With a rather playful smile, he asked, and then, after that, Oh, Emperor's son, are you talking about benefits? Don't worry, the Li clan will definitely stand on the side of Crown Prince Wang. With the help of the Li clan, even the Empress of the Fan Prefecture will look at Crown Prince Wang in a different light. Zhao Xian squinted his eyes and smiled, disdain flashing in his eyes. At the same time, Niuzha Tian was lying on the ground and watching quietly. When he saw Wang Kai raise his hand, his eyes widened, and he looked at Zhao Xian with a gloating expression. Are you done? Wang Kai said with a smile. Zhao Xian nodded and got off the stone bed. He put his hands behind his back and said, Emperor's son should know what to do. In that case, I won't disturb you anymore. Goodbye. Swish. Suddenly, Wang Kai flipped over and stood up. Immediately, he arrived in front of Zhao Xian. Under Zhao Xian's disbelieving gaze, Wang Kai waved his hand and sent a slap down. Slap! Bang! A crisp sound exploded and Zhao Xian was slapped to the ground. Blood and broken teeth were spat out all over the ground. Emperor's son, aren't you afraid that the Li family, bang, crack? However, Zhao Xian hadn't finished speaking when he was swept up by Wang Kai's leg. His body was instantly kicked flying and fiercely smashed into the stone wall, causing the bones in his entire body to emit endless sounds of shattering. First, you are just a servant of the Li family. How dare you sit side by side with Ben Shao? This is disrespectful. Second, you should never have tried to threaten Ben Shao with the Li family. This is stupid and ignorant. Thirdly, and this is the most important point, as a human, you don't even know the most basic concept of humanity. Although I have not spent much time with all of you, I can see that Lin Han Tian treats you like a brother, and yet you are doing such harm to him behind his back. That is unjust. Such a foolish servant who doesn't know what's good for him dares to appear in front of this young master. Have you thought about the consequences? Bang! Wah! With a flip of his hand, Wang Kai gripped Zhao Xian's neck in his hand. Subsequently, he swung his fist and smashed it onto Zhao Xian's chest. Instantly, Zhao Xian's eyes rolled back and his face turned deathly pale. His body flew back like a meteor and collided against the stone door. A mouthful of fresh blood and gastric juice was spat out. Cough, cough, your highness, 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 your highness. He never thought that Wang Kai would disregard the dignity of the #1 alchemy family. Even if he was the emperor of the Endless Treasures Pavilion, he should treat him with respect. Little did he know that Wang Kai even dared to kill the direct descendants of the 4 great families of the Wu state. If Zhao Xian had investigated more carefully, he would not have dared to face Wang Kai with such a high profile. Tell me, why would the #1 alchemy family of the Pill Domain of the Sun Moon Island make things so difficult for the Lin siblings? Don't lie to Ben Shao. If you do, don't blame Ben Shao for killing you on the spot. Wang Kai shrugged and sat on the stone bed with an indifferent expression. When Zhao Xian heard this, He did not dare to be negligent in the slightest and immediately said, Lin Han Tian and his sister were originally from a family of alchemists in the Dan region. They had the formula for the soul return pill. The Li family had repeatedly asked for the formula, but to no avail, so they destroyed the family. What is the soul return pill? Wang Kai frowned and asked with narrowed eyes. Chapter 219. A pill that can bring the dead back to life. Zhao Xian quickly replied. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but laugh. Isn't that the same as the 9 Revolutions soul return pill? Papa, Niuzha Tian snorted and said, disdainfully, how can a mere soul return pill be compared to the 9 Revolutions soul return pill? Even if the former can bring the dead back to life, the success rate is very low, and even if it succeeds, it will lead to the loss of cultivation. Yes, what this bull demon said is, bang. Whoa. Before Zhao Xian could finish, he was kicked by Niuzha Tian's hoof and was sent flying. He slammed into the stone wall and coughed up blood. Stupid human, call me Master Niu. Niuzha Tian held his head high and said proudly. Wang Kai's mouth twitched. Even though Niuzha Tian couldn't kill him, Zhao Xian had already been severely injured. Even an ordinary person could beat him up, let alone an ox's hoof. If Ben Xiao is right, then Lin Hanyue should have used the soul return pill to be resurrected, right? Wang Kai shrugged and smiled. Zhao Xian's face was pale. He clutched his chest and half knelt on the ground. He lowered his head and gasped for breath. He said intermittently, yes, but after her death, her soul was taken away by the Hell State, and she became a servant of the Hell King. So when her soul returned, she was blocked by the Hell King's strange fire. Although she was successfully resurrected, her legs, I'm afraid that in 3 months, she is doomed to die, right? What Lin Han Tian can do now is to temporarily suppress the strange fire, right? Wang Kai's eyebrows gradually relaxed. He couldn't help but shake his head and sigh secretly. The 9 Serenity's cold flame was ranked 3rd on the list of strange fires. Only the first 2, the dustless fire and the devil thought flame, could easily remove it completely. Even if other strange fires could remove it, it would be extremely troublesome. Of course, no one would offend Ming Yi for the Lin siblings. After all, the strange fires could suppress each other, and that was absolute suppression. If a strange fire controller offended Ming Yi, wouldn't it be uneasy? Could he only wait for death? That's right, the Lin clan was destroyed. Lin Han Tian and Lin Hanyue escaped from Sun Moon Island, one injured and the other killed. Who would have thought that Lin Han Tian had hidden a finished product of the Soul Return Elixir? In order to get the recipe for the Soul Return Elixir, the Li clan decided to let Lin Hanyue die again. Zhao Xian said. Wang Kai's eyes narrowed when he heard this, and his expression was one of mockery as he said, Lin Han Tian is a descendant of a family of alchemists, but he does not know alchemy. He is a martial arts practitioner, and that is why you hid by his side. You wanted Lin Hanyue to have no medicine to suppress her and eventually die. Only then would Lin Han Tian hand over the recipe for the resurrection elixir and allow other alchemists to concoct it. Am I right? The Crown Prince's intelligence is outstanding, and I, Zhao Xian, am impressed. Just as the Crown Prince said, once Lin Hanyue dies, Lin Han Tian will definitely take out the recipe for the soul-returning elixir and let other alchemists refine the soul-returning elixir. Once that happens, my task will be considered complete. Zhao Xian nodded and said, if that was the case, then the alchemist should also be a member of the Li family. Even if he was not, he would have been bribed or threatened by the Li family. He was afraid that the alchemy ingredients that Lin Han Tian had purchased, as well as the 10 million 8th grade spirit stones, would all be for naught. Wang Kai shrugged casually. He had thought that the item that the Li family cared about would be some kind of treasure, but in the end, it was just a mere soul-returning elixir. He already had the recipe for the 9 Revolutions soul-returning elixir, so naturally, the soul-returning elixir was nothing to him. If the Lin siblings can come up with the spirit stones, the Endless Treasures Pavilion will sell them the alchemy ingredients. This cannot be changed. Even if the head of the Li family, the #1 alchemist family, were to come here, Bin Xiao's answer would still be the same. Now get lost, Wang Kai said with a faint smile. Boom, boom, boom. As the stone door opened, Zhao Xian scrambled to escape, as if he had been pardoned. Although he sympathized with the Lin siblings, all Wang Kai could do was sell them the alchemy ingredients. As for helping them provoke the Li family, the two sides did not have that kind of deep friendship, and there was no reason for Wang Kai to be satisfied. Even if Wang Kai was not afraid of the Li family, there was no need to provoke them for a stranger. As for Zhao Xian, he was just a servant of the Li family. Even if the Li family was not happy that Wang Kai had seriously injured him, they would still give face to the emperor of the Endless Treasures Pavilion and drop the matter. However, the elixir that could suppress the 9 Serenity's cold flames is quite interesting. Duan Dao, Wang Kai thought for a moment, and then called out lightly. Whoosh! Duan Dao was not as tactful as Hao Run, and had been waiting in front of the stone door. When he heard Wang Kai's summons, he hurriedly appeared and asked respectfully, Your Highness, what can I do for you? Bring a portion of the alchemy ingredients that the Lin siblings bought for Ben Xiao, Wang Kai said with a faint smile. As soon as these words came out, Duan Dao raised his thick eyebrows and widened his eyes. He hurriedly shook his head and said, Your Highness, you can't do this. The Endless Treasures Pavilion has rules that forbid you from prying into any information of buyer. Wang Kai's face darkened when he heard this. He suddenly had an impulse to beat him up, but when he thought of his honest and loyal character, he could not help but laugh in anger. Dowd, do you know that the Lin siblings are about to die? Whoosh! Duan Dao's face suddenly changed. His eyes widened, and he said in a surprised voice, Your Highness, what do you mean? It's very simple. They were deceived by Zhao Xian, and the pills they refined were poisonous. If Ben Xiao doesn't figure out the ingredients they use to refine the pills, I'm afraid they will die. Wang Kai pretended to be sympathetic and shook his head with a sigh. Duan Dao's face was serious, and his eyes were full of hesitation. In the end, he clenched his teeth and said, Your Highness, Dowd is willing to violate the rules this time. After this, I will take the initiative to accept the punishment. Your Highness, please wait a moment. As Duan Dao turned around and left in a hurry, Wang Kai's mouth twitched fiercely. He was really speechless by Duan Dao's character. Human boy, there are not many subordinates in the world who are as loyal and sincere as him. You are lucky to have such a helper. Of course, in a way, it is also unlucky. Niu Zhetian snorted. Wang Kai was secretly amused when he heard this. He looked at him with a playful expression and said with a playful smile, There are not many bull demons like you. Smack! Niu Zhetian snorted disdainfully and said, Of course, I have been cultivating for tens of thousands of years. From the ancient times until now, there is nothing that is difficult for me. Ha ha! First there was chaos, then there was heaven. Wang Kai was before the chaos. This year, I'm only 16 years old. One era is 1 year. What is the ancient time? Wang Kai said with a faint smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the 8th level of the Sage Realm. Chapter 220. First there was chaos, then there was heaven. You're even more powerful than chaos. I've seen countless strong cultivators, but I've never seen a human who can brag like you, said Niu Zhetian. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and smiled. Ben Xiao is the god of bragging in the Fanzhou. Outside of the Fanzhou, he's the god of bragging. Outside of the Fanzhou, he's the god of bragging. When he speaks, he can make thousands of strong cultivators kneel. When he speaks, he can make thousands of beautiful women spread their legs. I'm afraid you'll never understand. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Niu Zhetian's black eyes opened wide. His black ears flapped, and he snorted. He said disdainfully, Little Wang, I want to rest now. I don't want to talk to you. If there's nothing else, please don't disturb me. Next time, when you call him Ben Shao, you can remove the little in the middle. With Ben Shao's heroic appearance, it's very appropriate to call him that, said Wang Kai with an indifferent smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Little Wang, remove the little in the middle. Neoja Tian's head shook and his eyes opened wide. He had never thought that this young man would be so shameless. He snorted disdainfully and lay down on the ground. He didn't want to say anything more. Your Highness, Lin Han Tian and Linda have prepared all the materials for alchemy, said Duanda respectfully. Boom, boom, boom. The stone door slowly opened, and Duanda came in with a package. He opened it respectfully, and there were dozens of materials for alchemy. That's a lot. What kind of pill is it? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and asked in confusion. Hearing this, Duan Dowd quickly shook his head. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, Lord Emperor, these are 10 sets of alchemy materials. Dowd has heard that the success rate of alchemists is extremely low. If Lord Emperor feels that these aren't enough, Dowd can find another 100 sets later. As soon as these words were spoken, it instantly caused Wang Kai's face to darken. He thought to himself, even if it's beneficial, it can't be beneficial to such an extent, right? Weren't these words filled with contempt? It seemed that there was a need to let him know how powerful Ben Shao was. Otherwise, wouldn't he embarrass himself in front of outsiders in the future? Now that there was no one else here, it was fine. If he suddenly said such a thing outside, wouldn't it be embarrassing? Dowd, Ben Shao only asked you to bring 1 set of alchemy materials. That's because Ben Shao has never failed in alchemy. Since he came into contact with alchemy when he was a child, he could always produce pills with a 100% success rate. Moreover, his pills were all at the heavenly grade. Although he hasn't practiced alchemy for more than 10 years, for a genius like Ben Shao, alchemy is just the tip of the iceberg, Wang Kai said with a faint smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've gained 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Duan Dowd's face was full of suspicion when he heard this. He thought that the emperor might have bragged like this because he couldn't bear to lose face. He immediately nodded and said respectfully, Lord Emperor, I understand. Well, it's good that you understand. You may leave. Wang Kai smiled faintly. Rumble. As the stone door slowly closed, Duan Dowd frowned and muttered, For the sake of the emperor's face, I think it's better to prepare 100 more sets. I just don't know what excuse should I use to give them to the emperor. Poor Duan Dowd had finally used his brain, but it was in the wrong place. Little boy Wang, do you really know how to make pills? At this moment, Neoja Tian couldn't help but raise his head and stare at Wang Kai in surprise. Bang! Wang Kai ignored him and took out the 9-dragon cauldron. When he placed the cauldron on the ground, Neoja Tian was shocked and stood up. This is the 9-dragon cauldron. Little boy Wang, where did you get it? Neoja Tian exclaimed. His eyes were wide open. He even knows the 9-dragon cauldron? Wang Kai was quite surprised. He couldn't help but squint and ask, Do you know where this cauldron came from? Of course. This cauldron is called the 9-dragon cauldron. It is made from the bones of 9 divine dragons. It has been extinct since ancient times. It should be impossible for it to exist now. Where did you get it? If you tell me where it is, I will give you countless ancient recipes in exchange for it. Neoja Tian's eyes were wide open. He was drooling. He looked extremely greedy. The 9-dragon cauldron had been extinct since ancient times. He didn't expect the 9-dragon cauldron to be so awesome. Wang Kai was secretly shocked, but in the end, he could only sigh. It would be great if he knew where the 9-dragon cauldron came from. Unfortunately, he didn't know where it came from. However, Wang Kai thought for a while and still frowned. He urged his mind with a trace of expectation and asked, Where did you get this 9-dragon cauldron? Host, it costs 9 bragging points to obtain it. Wang Kai's face darkened when he heard this. He then asked the system again and again, no less than a dozen times, but he still couldn't get a satisfactory answer. The system's answers were all the same, and they were all obtained through the consumption of bragging points. Hee hee, The Nine-Dragon Cauldron doesn't have any history. It's just a furnace that Bin Xiao uses to keep warm. Wang Kai smiled indifferently. He sighed in his heart. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Niu Zhetian snorted. When he saw that Wang Kai didn't want to tell him, he rolled his eyes and said coldly, "As long as I am with you, I will know where the Nine-Dragon Cauldron comes from. I have the longest lifespan of any living creature. I have a lot of time to waste with you." Poof! Sizzle! Sizzle! When Wang Kai flicked his finger, a white flame appeared. Niu Zhetian's eyes were wide open. "That's a pure flame. Little boy, who are you? Where do you come from?" Niu Zhetian asked, drooling. Wang Kai frowned and smiled disdainfully. "Niu Zhetian, you can't even get past Bin Xiao, and you want to go to Bin Xiao's house? Even if Bin Xiao told you to go, would you dare? In Bin Xiao's hometown, everyone knows the universal slash. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Everyone knows the universal slash?" Niu Zhetian was trembling. If he was attacked by anyone, wouldn't he be crushed? He snorted and said, "I was just asking. I didn't mean anything by it. Don't think too much." Wang Kai looked at him disdainfully. This Niu Zhetian was greedy. If it weren't for the universal slash, nobody would have been able to subdue him. Chapter 221. Buzz. Wang Kai flicked his fingers and the dustless fire started to burn in the Nine-Dragon Cauldron. Then, he threw a batch of ingredients into the cauldron. Buzz, buzz. Rumble, rumble. Wang Kai was puzzled. The Nine-Dragon Cauldron started to tremble. The flames coming out of the Nine-Dragon Cauldron were also intermittent. This situation was completely different from before. Whoosh! Suddenly, Niu Zhetian's eyes widened. He stood up and snorted. Then, he ran towards the stone door in a panic. When Niu Zhetian's head touched the stone door, his body passed through it as if nothing had happened. The stone door was not damaged, and neither was his body. Bang! Boom! Seeing this scene, Wang Kai suddenly felt a little bad. He immediately wanted to leave the stone room, but he was still a step too late. There was a burst of explosion in the Nine-Dragon Cauldron. Pale, white flames and alchemy materials burst out in all directions. The stone room was filled with black smoke. Boom! Rumble! The stone door slowly opened. Wang Kai walked out. His hair was messy. His clothes were torn, and his face was burnt black. He looked extremely angry. He looked like a madman who had lost his temper. Boom! Niu Zhetian was wagging his tail. He held his head high and said proudly, "Master Niu ran fast. Otherwise, I would have ended up like you." Alchemy failed. The cauldron exploded. Wang Kai couldn't believe that he had failed. After all, he had the dustless fire and the Nine-Dragon Cauldron. The success rate should have been 100%. But this time he had failed. What the hell is going on? Wang Kai frowned and asked with an ashen face. Niu Zhetian raised his head and snorted mockingly. What else could it be? It's just that one of the ingredients is missing, causing the pill to be unable to be formed. One of the ingredients is missing? Wang Kai's expression froze when he heard this. He could not help but shake his head and smile helplessly. Thinking about it, with the Lin sibling situation, how could they possibly buy all the alchemy materials in the same place? As the saying goes, one must always be wary of others. Even the treasure trove pavilion did not seem to have gained the trust of the Lin siblings. But, little Wang, I think we should capture the person who bought the ingredients. This pill is not simple. Even in the ancient times, it was extraordinary. Niu Zhetian said in a low voice. What kind of pill could make Niu Zhetian so greedy? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and asked, what kind of pill? The Great Sun Cold Pill. Some of the ingredients are very common, but the main ingredient is the sun tree, the sun fruit, which only bears fruit every 1,000 years. In the ancient times, only the most powerful groups had a sun tree, and there were no more than 5 sun trees. Now, there's not even one sun tree. If you want to get one, you have to go to the ancient ruins. Niu Zhetian said with a smile. Great Sun Cold Pill, Sun Tree, sun fruit, sun fruit. Wang Kai frowned slightly when he heard this. With a surprised expression, he said with a smile, "Could it be that this great sun-cold pill can really remove the 9 nether-cold flame?" Of course not. Only a special fire can get rid of a strange fire. Even a pill can get rid of it, but it has to be refined with a special fire. The great sun-cold pill can only reduce the speed of the 9 serenities cold flame. Yes, it can slow down death. Neo Jetian said indifferently. The sun fruit was so powerful, but in the end, it could only slow down death. Wang Kai was speechless. But if Neo Jetian cared so much about the sun fruit, then there must be other uses for it. He couldn't help but smile and said, "What is the use of the sun fruit? It can't be used for healing, but it can be used for cultivation and sealing. For example, the simplest Great Sun Barrier Breaking Pill can allow a holy emperor to easily break through to the emperor level of the saints. Of course, it can also be used to break through to the saint layer." Neo Jetian said, "Barrier Breaking Pill could allow a holy emperor level of the saints to easily break through to the emperor level of the saints. For cultivators, it was indeed a peerless pill. But what about the other type of seal?" Wang Kai immediately raised his eyebrows, looking at him with a mocking face. "You don't want to use the sun fruit to break your seal, do you?" Master Neo is not afraid to tell you that even if you have the sun fruit, if you want to break my seal, you need at least 10,000 of them. But if you can find the sun tree and swallow it whole, then you won't be far from breaking the seal. Neo Jetian smiled proudly. In the end, Neo Jetian didn't want the sun fruit. He wanted the sun tree. "Your Highness, what are you?" Duan Daod raised his eyebrows and looked at Wang Kai strangely. He was wondering if Wang Kai had really failed to concoct the pill. "Yes, my concoction was too perfect, so it attracted a culpa. I was careless. That's why it ended up like this. Don't worry about it." Wang Kai smiled indifferently. "Congratulations to the host for bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points." Neo Jetian snorted when he heard that. He looked at Huang Xiaolong with disdain. "Your Highness, you are really a genius alchemist. You attracted a culpa. I admire you." Duan Daod was startled, but he didn't seem to believe it. When Wang Kai saw this, the corners of his mouth twitched. Duan Daod was really annoying. Even if he said something nice, he should at least show a proper expression. "Find 2 maids and let them bathe Ben Shao. Oh, by the way, send someone to keep an eye on Lin Han Tian and his sister. Don't disturb them and don't let them know. Later, Ben Shao will go and find them." Wang Kai smiled indifferently. Duan Daod immediately nodded. He thought that Wang Kai was going to help Lin Han Tian and his sister. He immediately bowed respectfully and said, "Your Highness, please rest assured." They didn't know that Wang Kai was doing this for the sun fruit. Even if he didn't need it to break through to the next cultivation level, he could sell it for a sky-high price. If he didn't take advantage of such a good opportunity, how could he still be a god in Wangcheng? In a private room, Wang Kai was speechless as he looked at the ancient wooden bathtub in front of him. Steam was rising from it. On both sides of the bathtub, there were 2 young women about 18 or 19 years old. They were holding bath towels in their hands and waiting. The 2 women looked pretty, but at the moment, they both had their heads down and their faces were slightly red. They looked very shy. I thought it would be an open-air bath. At the very least, I would enjoy a bath like an emperor. In the end, it's just a bathtub." Wang Kai shook his head and sighed. "Please vote for me. Thank you very much." Chapter 222. I, Chunlan, will help you change your clothes. I, Xiahe, will help you change your clothes. Chunlan wore a light green dress, while Xiahe wore a pink dress. One on the left and one on the right. They came to Wang Kai's side and bowed slightly. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he saw this. He immediately pretended to be indifferent and opened his arms, like a king looking straight ahead. Swish, swish, swish. When Chunlan and Xiahe unbuttoned Wang Kai's clothes, their soft fingers touched his skin, causing Wang Kai to feel a little itchy. However, he still had a smile on his face and allowed them to do as they pleased. Just like those emperors, changing clothes while bathing was a very common thing. However, now that he personally experienced it, he felt extremely comfortable. If he could enjoy it like this, the more the better in the future. If I can let Jingxian help Ben Xiao change clothes and bathe, that feeling. TSK, TSK. Wang Kai thought to himself happily in his heart. When all his clothes were taken off, his well-built body was exposed. He looked quite handsome, and the warm masculine aura stimulated Chunlan and Xia he to lower their heads with their faces as red as blood. Wang Kai's expression immediately became rather proud. He could not help but raise his arm and take a look. Although he had not trained, his body was still very strong due to his cultivation. He immediately said with a faint smile, "AI, Ben Xiao's body is really extraordinary. I'm afraid that there are many beauties in the world who have not had the chance to see it." Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Chunlan and Xia He's delicate bodies trembled slightly when they heard this. They secretly looked at each other and pursed their lips into a smile. Their eyes flickered as they secretly sized up Wang Kai. At first, they were afraid that they would be punished if they did not serve Wang Kai well. However, from the looks of it, this emperor was not that difficult to serve. It was quite interesting. "Emperor, please enter the bath," Chunlan said as she slightly bowed. Wang Kai gently nodded his head and replied with a grunt, after which he leaped into the air and landed directly in the bathtub. Immediately, the water splashed up and splashed onto Chunlan and Xia. "Ah, Your Highness." Chunlan and Xia blushed. They were already wearing very little, and now that they were splashed by the water, the outline of their skin was faintly discernible. This made the two girls even more embarrassed. They both thought that Wang Kai had done it on purpose. In fact, Wang Kai did it on purpose. They saw Wang Kai sizing up their delicate bodies without any concealment. He immediately nodded his head and praised with a smile, "Not bad. Your bodies are exquisite with a little watermark, faintly discernible like water lotus." "Your Highness, you..." Chunlan and Xia's red lips parted slightly. They never thought that Wang Kai would actually take the initiative to admit it and look at it so directly. Seeing this, Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and shrugged with an indifferent expression. He said happily, "In the future, the two of you will be Ben Xiao's personal maids." "Yes, Your Highness." Chunlan and Xia glanced at each other and nodded bitterly in response. They immediately understood what Wang Kai meant. A maid serving a bath was different from a personal maid serving a bath. Immediately, Chunlan and Xia's actions were extremely bashful as they took off their clothes. Only when they were left with a red mandarin duck, Vidu, did they purse their lips tightly. They lifted their long legs and prepared to step into the bathtub. Seeing this, Wang Kai's eyes suddenly bulged. He looked at them with a startled expression and asked in confusion, "What are you doing?" Even if Ben Xiao is extraordinarily handsome and is the most handsome man in the world, you can't be so quick to take a bath with Ben Xiao, right? At least, you should get to know each other. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have gained 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the 9th grade Saint Realm. Chunlan and Xia blushed even more when they heard this. They looked at Wang Kai with a trace of embarrassment in their eyes and said in unison, "Your Highness, didn't you just say that you want us sisters to be your personal maids?" "Personal maids? Ahem. All you need to do is take care of this young master's basic necessities. As for the rest, let's not talk about it for now." Wang Kai smiled with a slightly stiff face. "Yes, Your Highness." Chunlan and Xia were not willing to give up their chastity so easily. When they heard Wang Kai's words, they were secretly delighted. They increasingly felt that this emperor was not bad. Even if Wang Kai wanted to have sex with them, wouldn't it be too degrading to do so when they had just met? Moreover, wouldn't there be plenty of opportunities to become his personal maids in the future? Women should be reserved. In Wang Kai's opinion, men should be even more reserved. Only in this way could the more reserved women become less reserved. Then, under the continuous service of Chunlan and Xia, Wang Kai finished his comfortable and hot bath. It was not until he put on his clothes that the lust gradually extinguished. In order to establish a good master image for the admiration of countless beauties and for a better future, Ben Xiao can only endure it for a while. Wang Kai secretly comforted himself. In the morning, under the service of Chunlan and Xia, Wang Kai was quite comfortable with his bath. Suddenly, he regretted that when he was in King City, he had such a prominent family background. Why didn't he enjoy it earlier? Your Highness, Lin Han Tian, his sister, and Zhao Xian want to use the space formation of the Treasure Trove Tower to go to the southern region. Outside the door, Duan Dao's simple and honest voice sounded. At this moment, Niuzha Tian was lying at the door. When he heard this, his dark eyes widened. He shook his body and stood up. In a muffled voice, he said, "Wang boy, come out quickly. Don't let them escape." Wang Kai frowned slightly when he heard this. He wondered why Lin Han Tian and his sister wanted to go to the southern region. Immediately, he opened the door and walked out with Chunlan and Xia. "Where are they now?" Wang Kai asked faintly. "Your Highness, they are waiting on the first floor," Duan Dao said respectfully. Wang Kai nodded gently. With his hands behind his back, he walked down to the 5th floor with a rather leisurely expression. On the first floor, Lin Han Tian was carrying Lin Han Yue on his back, and Zhao Xian, whose face was bruised, waiting below. When he saw Wang Kai and the others appear, Zhao Xian's face suddenly became a little ugly. He was afraid that Wang Kai would expose his identity and cause the mission to fail. At that time, he would inevitably be punished by the Li family. "Your Highness, we want to use the space formation to go to the southern region. I hope you can make an exception for us." Lin Han Tian stepped forward and said with a fist salute. Before Wang Kai could respond, Zhao Xian suddenly said through voice transmission, "Your Highness, yesterday's matter was my fault, but I hope you will not make things difficult for me for the sake of the Li family." The Li family's reputation? Wang Kai heard this and glanced at him disdainfully. Then, he narrowed his eyes and looked at Lin Han Tian. He smiled faintly and said, "The 9 serenities cold flame in your sister's soul can be cured by Ben Xiao." Whoosh! As soon as these words came out, the faces of Lin Han Tian, his sister, and Zhao Xian suddenly changed. Thank you for your recommendation vote. Chapter 223. Your Highness, I really don't know what you're talking about. The 9 Serenities Cold Flame is ranked 3rd on the list of rare flames. My sister's leg was injured in the Star Sea. How could it have anything to do with rare flames? Lin Han Tian said solemnly. Although he did not know how the Prince of the Trove of Treasures Pavilion had seen through it, he could not admit it now. Just as Wang Kai had not taken the initiative to help him at first, Lin Han Tian had deep scruples at this moment. Would the Prince of the Trove of Treasures Pavilion offend the Lord of Hell of the underworld state for a nobody? Lin Han Tian obviously did not trust Wang Kai. Lin Han Yue, who was on Wang Kai's back, clenched her fists tightly as a greenish-white color appeared on them. Her beautiful eyes flickered as she looked at Wang Kai with hesitation. However, she did not say anything in the end. "Prince Wang, I'm fully aware that you possess the number 1 mystical flame, the dustless flame, but I hope that you don't go too far. Although I'm only a mere deacon in the Li family, the Li family won't sit idly by." Zhao Xian's face was gloomy as he secretly sent a voice transmission to remind him. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard this. He glanced at him with a look of disdain and smiled faintly. "Li Xian, were you not beaten hard enough yesterday? Even now, you can't help but threaten Ben Xiao. Do you really think Ben Xiao won't dare to kill you?" Whoosh! Plop! As soon as these words came out, Zhao Xian was so frightened that his face turned white. He recalled the torture yesterday and fell to the ground in fright. Such a scene immediately caused the Lin siblings to be startled, and they both looked at him in confusion. "Beaten yesterday? Li Xian?" Wang Kai could not help but shake his head and laugh when he saw this. He said lightly, "It seems that you siblings are too careful, so careful that you have not even heard of Ben Xiao's name. Regarding Ben Xiao, even the deacon of the Li family, Zhao Xian, is not as good as you. The deacon of the Li family, Zhao Xian, was the Li Xian mentioned just now him? As he thought of this, Lin Hantian's face suddenly changed, and he quickly took a few steps back. He coldly scolded, Zhao Xian, are you really sent by the Li family? No, no, no. It's Zhao Xian originally wanted to quibble, but under Wang Kai's cold and indifferent gaze, he could only admit the truth while trembling. He was like a deflated balloon, and his heart was filled with despair as he sat foolishly on the ground. Ben Xiao's name is Wang Kai. He controls the number 1 mystical flame, the dustless flame. Wang Kai said with a faint smile. Whoosh! As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of the Lin siblings changed again. You are the Wang Kai who wreaked havoc in the Buddha state? Lin Hantian asked in shock. At this moment, Lin Hanyue's beautiful eyes were also rippling, and she said in a surprised voice, in the southern region, he auctioned off Sweet Sound, a lay disciple of the Mary Buddha Temple. After that, he even killed the direct descendant of the Wu state. He even dared to threaten and frame the patriarch of the Phoenix tribe and the patriarch of the Blue Phoenix tribe outside the treasure trove tower in the southern region. He almost died. Hearing the story of the brother and sister, Wang Kai suddenly felt a sense of pride. He immediately put his hands behind his back and said with a rather indifferent smile, It's just a small matter. For this young master, it's just a trivial matter. It's not worth mentioning, not worth mentioning. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. But just as he finished bragging, Wang Kai's expression froze. He could not help but touch his nose and said in confusion, What I said before was indeed done by Ben Xiao, but at the end he framed the patriarch of the Phoenix tribe and the patriarch of the Blue Phoenix tribe. Almost dying. What does that mean? Even if it was true that he had used the Qiongqi beast to frame them, no one else knew about it. The only people who knew were the people involved. As for those bystanders, they had already run far away. It seems that Prince Wang still doesn't know. The patriarch of the Phoenix tribe and the patriarch of the Blue Phoenix tribe joined forces to fight the Qiongqi beast. In the end, they were seriously injured and were no match for it. Just as they were about to die, they summoned the Phoenix Ancestor. The Qiongqi beast and the Phoenix Ancestor fought for a day and a night. In the end, both sides were injured. Lin Hantian smacked his lips and said with admiration. Lin Hanyue's eyes rippled with extraordinary splendor. She smiled gently and said, That's right. Moreover, after this matter, the 5 great Phoenix tribes all issued a king-killing order. As long as Prince Wang leaves Treasure Trove City, the 10,000 demons of the demon continent will definitely kill you. King-killing order? F***CK. Did it have to be so serious? Wang Kai's heart jumped when he heard this. It seemed that he had really angered Feng Tiannan and Qing this time. They actually didn't even care about the face of Treasure Trove Pavilion. On the surface, they said that they wouldn't kill him if he didn't leave Treasure Trove City. But in the 4 great treasure trove cities of the demon continent, there was no spatial array that could reach other continents. That also meant that if he wanted to live, he must not leave Treasure Trove City of the demon continent for the rest of his life. That stupid Qiongqi, a dignified, ferocious beast, couldn't even kill those 2 phoenixes. Wang Kai cursed fiercely in his heart. Now that he was in so much trouble, wouldn't it be difficult for him to walk around the demon continent? Plop! Suddenly, Lin Hantian knelt on the ground. Lin Hanyue, who was on his back, was also supported to kneel on the ground. She couldn't feel her legs, but kneeling in such a situation, the pain from the invasion of the 9 underworld's cold flame still caused Lin Hanyue extreme pain. But she didn't frown. She pursed her red lips tightly and gritted her teeth to endure. Prince Wang, if you can save my sister from this disaster, Lin Hantian's life will henceforth belong to you. Even if you want me to be your slave, I won't hesitate. Lin Hantian said with a serious face as he clasped his fist. Bang, bang, bang. Then, before Wang Kai could even open his mouth to speak, Lin Hantian actually took the initiative to kowtow 3 times. And when he looked at his forehead again, there was blood. If Prince Wang is willing to save Han Yue, Han Yue is willing to be like my brother and hand over my life to you. I will never regret being your slave. Lin Hanyue said with her red lips tightly pressed together. Wang Kai heard this, and his eyes looked stunned. He stepped aside and did not immediately agree. Instead, he asked lightly, "Is it to seek revenge on the Li clan? It's not that Bin Xiao is looking down on you siblings, but you want to make an enemy out of the top forces of the Saint Plain?" Ha! However, Lin Hantian and Lin Hanyue said in unison, "Even if we die, we will go." "Very well, your lives are your own. Life and death are up to you." Although Bin Xiao is not a good person, he is not evil either. Since you siblings are willing to pay such a price, Bin Xiao will grant you your wish. But Wang Kai was halfway through his words when his eyes narrowed slightly. Lin Hantian and Lin Hanyue were both stunned, waiting for Wang Kai to make his request. Bin Xiao needs to know where the sun fruit comes from, and that is the price. Bin Xiao does not need you to be his slaves. Wang Kai said lightly. Whoosh. As soon as he said this, the Lin siblings' faces suddenly changed. Their eyes widened, and they looked at Wang Kai in disbelief. They never thought that he would know about this. Zhao Xian, who was standing to the side, was also feeling more and more desperate. At first, he did not tell Wang Kai about this. He was just thinking that he could use this in exchange for a chance to live. But now, Wang Kai knew everything, and he knew it like the back of his hand. He wanted to compete with the Li clan. Thank you, fellow Taoists, for your gifts and support. Thank you, fellow Taoists, for your support. Chapter 2:24. The 9 Nether Cold Flame was ranked 3rd on the mysterious flame ranking. It was purple in color and extremely cold in the world. Wang Kai squinted his eyes and looked at the purple flame that was burning. However, it did not hurt the flesh and was stopped at the knee. It seems that Ming Yi did not attack you directly. Otherwise, your soul would have been destroyed. How could you succeed in returning your soul? Wang Kai could not help but laugh. The 9 Nether Cold Flame was extremely cold in the world. If it was attacked directly, the person who was hit by the flame would definitely be turned into an ice sculpture and die on the spot. Moreover, it only needed to blow a breath to shatter the ice sculpture. No matter if it was the body or the soul, it would not be able to escape from the 9 Nether Cold Flame. Prince Wang is right. When Han Yue used the soul-returning pill to return her soul, Ming Yi was not in the King of Hell Mansion. The 9 Nether Cold Flame on my legs was also injected by Ming Yi when I first entered the King of Hell Mansion. As long as I do not leave the Nether region, it will not harm me. Lin Hanyue said softly. Wang Kai nodded slightly. If it was not so, Ming Yi would have stopped it personally. Wanting to return her soul? It would be as difficult as climbing the sky. In the end, she would definitely be destroyed. Then, the thing that is blocking the 9 Nether Cold Flame is the Great Sun Cold Pill, right? Logically speaking, with that despicable Zhao Xian secretly plotting, the Great Sun Cold Pill should not be refined. Could it be that there is still? Wang Kai squinted his eyes and smiled. Lin Hanyue did not hide anything. She pursed her lips and said softly, I did not expect Prince to investigate so carefully. That's right, there are still 3 Great Sun Cold Pills. They can continue to suppress the 9 Nether Cold Flame for 3 months. Haha, Bin Xiao is not talking about the Great Sun Cold Pill, but the Sun Fruit. Since you and your sister have searched for enough materials, it means that there should be more Sun Fruit. Wang Kai smiled faintly. The Sun Fruit came from the Pill region of the Sun Moon Island. Wang Kai naturally did not want to let go of the 5 Emperor Tablets in the Dragon Mountain. Therefore, he could not go to the Sun Moon Island for now. Similarly, there are still 3 fruits left. They are all with my brother. If Prince Wang can help Han Yu get rid of the 9 Nether Cold Flame, then the 3 fruits will naturally be useless. But, as a thank you gift, before Lin Hanyue could finish, she was interrupted by Wang Kai. No. Those 3 sun fruits can only be used as interest, not as a thank you gift. Wang Kai smiled calmly. What a joke. Wherever the sun fruit was, there would definitely be a sun tree. Compared to a mere 3 sun fruits, it was naturally better to choose the sun tree. However, Wang Kai's personality was like that. He loved money as much as his life. Even if there were 3 of them, as long as they appeared in front of him, he would naturally not let them go. "I'll do as you say, Crown Prince." Lin Hanyue pursed her lips and said. There was no turning back now. Only then did Wang Kai nod his head in satisfaction, and he immediately pointed at her legs. Puff! In an instant, the purple 9 nether cold flame dissipated. It was so fast that even Lin Hanyue, the person involved, did not feel anything. Wang Kai was also surprised at this moment. Even though he knew that the dustless flame could suppress any special flame, he did not expect it to be removed so quickly. The dustless flame was indeed the king of the 9 special flames. It's done. Wang Kai retracted his palm and smiled calmly with his hands behind his back. It's done? Lin Hanyue's eyes flashed when she heard this. Her expression was a little sluggish. She could not help but try to move her legs. Suddenly, she found a feeling of blood connection emerging. Thank you, Crown Prince Wang, for your kindness. Lin Hanyue's eyes reddened. The long-lost feeling of being in control of her legs caused her to lower her head and shed tears. Wang Kai waved his hand calmly and laughed softly. It's just a 9 nether cold flame. In Ben Xiao's eyes, it's just a kind of useless flame. Even if you don't use the dustless flame, Ben Xiao can still extinguish it in one breath. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. However, Lin Hanyue did not hear this clearly. At this moment, she was already immersed in joy. She kept walking back and forth on the ground. Occasionally, she would laugh softly. She was as happy as a little girl playing. Cough, cough. Sometimes, being ignored when you're bragging is a very sad thing. Wang Kai's expression did not change, but he sighed in his heart. However, this scenery does give Ben Xiao some comfort. Wang Kai could not help but sit on the stone bed. He pretended to be indifferent as he looked at the lively Lin Hanyue. One must know that at this moment, Lin Hanyue only had a red doo-doo on her upper body and a pair of white shorts on her lower body. In between each movement, the white rabbit could be seen rolling up and down. This made Wang Kai very excited. Suddenly, Lin Hanyue recovered from her joy. Immediately, her face turned red. She hugged her chest in embarrassment and squatted on the ground. She pursed her lips tightly and said softly, Wang, Prince Wang, can you throw Hanyue's clothes over? Oh, Ben Xiao forgot. You haven't put on your clothes yet. Just now, Ben Xiao was infected by your joy. Congratulations, congratulations. Wang Kai smiled indifferently. He flipped his hand and threw the clothes to the side. This situation made Lin Hanyue even more embarrassed. However, her heart was very strange. Even she did not know what this feeling was. In short, it felt very strange. You siblings should stay in the treasure trove pavilion for now. When Ben Xiao returns from a myriad demon conference, he will go to the Sun Moon Island with you. Wang Kai said with a smile. Lin Hanyue's eyes flashed when she heard this. After putting on her clothes, she respectfully went forward and bowed. She said softly, Yes, Prince Wang. She was so obedient. Wang Kai was secretly surprised when he saw this. However, he could not be bothered to find out what she was thinking. He just needed to stay in the treasure trove pavilion obediently. Buzz. Suddenly, the 7-colored token of Emperor Fan flew out. Immediately, Wang Kai frowned. He waved his hand and opened the stone door. He said indifferently, Go and find Steward Duan to arrange a place for you to stay. Yes, Your Highness. Lin Hanyue's eyes glimmered as she glanced at the 7-colored token. Then, she respectfully retreated. Rumble. As the stone door slowly closed, Wang Kai could still hear Lin Hanyue and Lin Hantian crying with joy. My good sister, I wonder what you are looking for me for? Could it be that you're anxious to be beaten up by Ben Xiao? Wang Kai urged his mind into the token and said in a tough tone. Buzz. The 7-colored light of the Emperor Fan token flashed, and the cold voice of the Empress came out from it. It seems that you have successfully obtained the 5 Emperors token. Wang Kai heard this and laughed disdainfully. He snorted proudly. With Ben Shao in the picture, what in the world can stop Ben Shao? Not to mention a mere 5 Emperors token. Even if I gather all 5 of them, it will be a trivial matter. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. In that case, you should gather all the 5 Emperor's tokens. If you can't gather all of them within a year, I will not let you go. As the voice of the Empress of Fanzhou came, Wang Kai's face suddenly darkened. Someone asked me how many chapters 1 I'm going to update today, so I will give you an answer. After 12 o'clock, the subscriptions are very strong. If there are still full subscriptions, a mere 10 chapters is too little. I would be embarrassed to give you even less. However, if it is average, then I will make it 5 chapters. However, I will reward you with 1,888 book coins plus 1 chapter. This will be effective for a long time. Chapter 225. What? Don't tell me you don't have the ability? Haha, don't boast so much in front of me in the future. From the rainbow token, the Fanzhou Empress' mocking voice sounded out, causing the corners of Wang Kai's mouth to fiercely twitch. Sometimes, boasting can really be a burden. But thinking about it, Wang Kai was not afraid. Gather the 5 Emperor tokens in a year? Even if he couldn't gather all of them, what could the Fanzhou Empress do? He had a whole year to boast. By then, would he still have to worry about the Fanzhou Empress? At that time, if he wanted to beat her up, he could beat her up. Who says Ben Shao is afraid? It's just 5 Emperor tokens. If Ben Shao wants to gather them, it's a piece of cake. But what price do you have to pay? Trying to reap the benefits of a fisherman's quarrel? That won't work for this young master. Wang Kai said with a disdainful smile. Congratulations to host for successfully boasting. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Buzz, what price do you want me to pay? Wang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard this, his expression quite frivolous as he smiled and said playfully, "It's very simple. Recommend yourself and wait for this young master's pleasure." Swoosh! The Emperor fan token shone brightly, but on the other side, there was no sound for a long time. For a moment, the stone room was silent. You were really bold. Forget it. If you can really gather all 5 of the 5 Emperor Dao tablets, I will give myself to you. So what? Just as Wang Kai was getting nervous, the Fanzhou Empress' voice finally came. Seeing that she was not angry, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Just you wait and see. When the time comes, Ben Shao will show you the masculinity of a man, the beauty of wildness. Ben Shao's body is the strongest in the universe. Wang Kai shrugged and said confidently, "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points." However, the Fanzhou Empress did not say much about this matter. Instead, she sent a clear and cold voice transmission. "I originally did not want you to participate in the 1,000 Demon Conference. However, since the 5 great Phoenix clans have dared to boast that they will kill you in the Demon Continent, the Treasure Trove Pavilion naturally cannot sit idly by. Leave the City of Treasures for now and go straight to the Pantheon of Demons, where the Myriad Demon Conference is held. I would like to see what kind of experts the thousands of demons will send to kill you. I would also like to see how many demons are tired of living." Whoosh! Wang Kai was stunned when he heard this. He was already thinking about how to deal with the Phoenix clan's killing orders. Now that the Empress of Fanzhou had spoken, he was naturally confident. His expression was extremely interesting as he waved his hand and clenched his fist. Mere demons from the Demon Continent want to take Ben Shao's life? Do they have the ability to do so? It's not that Ben Shao wants to boast, but if one comes, I'll kill one. If 2 comes, I'll kill 2. Even if tens of millions are killed, Ben Shao won't care at all. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the first grade Holy King realm. Host, Wong Kai occupation, martial artist auxiliary occupation, alchemist realm. First grade Holy King cultivation technique, limitless Holy Soul technique, alchemy codex martial technique, shrink, chronological gate, palm print 8 desolation, thunderclap sword, demon body metamorphosis, yuan chi bomb equipment, Tong Tian Tower, 9 Dragon Cauldron Bloodline, Level 8 Bragging Points, 560 Experience, 080000. Hearing the notification, Wong Kai's expression became even more interesting. He quickly glanced at it and closed it. He couldn't help but grin coldly. In this world, who is Ben Shao afraid of? I'll kill whoever I want. Anyone who dares to act tough in front of Ben Shao must be beaten to death. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. As expected of the Prince of the Endless Treasures Pavilion. With such courage, you can rest assured that after you fall, I will avenge you. Wong. As the Fanzhou Empress voice sounded, Wong Kai's face suddenly froze. The corners of his mouth twitched violently as he angrily scolded. You really are my good sworn sister. Hee pata. Only to hear the gentle laughter of the Empress of Fanzhou, the light from the 7-colored token dissipated as it fell onto the stone bed. No matter how Wong Kai tried to communicate, he couldn't get a response. He had originally thought that the Fanzhou Empress would secretly help him. However, in the end, all he got was the words that she would avenge him after he fell. This was simply too infuriating. Fanzhou Empress, B*TCH, Ben Shao will definitely fight with you for 3 days and 3 nights in the future. He will definitely make you beg for mercy until you're exhausted. You will respectfully call me Lord Kai. Please show mercy. Wong Kai gritted his teeth and sneered. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Rumble. Wong Kai got off the stone bed and opened the stone door with a wave of his hand. Looking at the few people waiting outside, he indifferently said, Chunlan and Xiaohe will temporarily stay in the Endless Treasures Pavilion. They are Ben Shao's hand-picked maids. The Dao, you must serve them well. Yes, Your Highness. Chunlan and Xiaohe's faces were slightly red as they hurriedly bowed respectfully. Duan de Dao naturally didn't dare to be negligent. He immediately cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, please rest assured. As long as the Dao is here, they will not make the slightest mistake. Brother Lin and Sister Hanyu, you two will also temporarily stay in the Endless Treasures Pavilion. Wong Kai smiled faintly. Whoosh. Lin Hantian gratefully took out a space ring. It was the same one that Wong Kai had given them before. However, it was no longer filled with spirit stones. Wong Kai flipped his hand and took it. He urged his mind to examine it and found that there were 3 palm-sized balls of light shining with a dazzling silver light. The Sun Fruit. Han Tian obeys the Emperor's order. Han Yue obeys the Emperor's order. Lin Han Tian and his sister respectfully responded one after another. Wong Kai saw this and nodded slightly. He then raised his foot and kicked Nyoja Tian, who was lying on the ground, until he stood up and said lightly, Let's go to the Pantheon of Demons and have some fun. Smack, smack, smack. Nyoja Tian suddenly snorted and looked quite disdainful. He said in a muffled voice, It's just the Pantheon of Demons. I can go with you and have some fun, but, of course, you will be rewarded. Wong Kai said with a smile. As long as he was a good meat shield and protected Ben Shao's life, what was a mere elixir? Your Highness, you want to go to the Pantheon of Demons? Duan de Dao raised his thick eyebrows and exclaimed in disbelief. Chunlan and Xiaohe, as well as Lin Hantian and his sister, heard this and were shocked at this moment. The 5 Phoenix clans had clearly given the order to kill the Emperor. If he left the Endless Treasures Pavilion, it was uncertain whether he would be able to survive. How dare he go to the Pantheon of Demons? Oh, of course. This time, Ben Shao wants to find a few phoenixes to be servants. a few divine dragons to pull a carriage. If the 5 powerful clans of the pantheon of demons dare to disrespect, they will be severely punished. Wang Kai said with a rather calm smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Since he had already bragged before, Wang Kai naturally did not choose to hide. Moreover, there was nowhere to hide, even if he wanted to. Within the territory of the demon state, there was no space array that could be used to travel to other states. With Wang Kai's character, how could he stay in the Endless Treasures Pavilion? It was better to visit him and have a fight. Someone asked me how much 10,000 book coins to add, and I am ashamed because I have never received a reward from Piaohong. If he can make me lose my virginity, I will add 50 chapters. However, time is limited in a day. If I can't finish it today, I will finish it tomorrow. But at least 10 chapters a day will be the minimum. The other 1888 book coins will not change, and so on. In short, I will maintain it every day. Thank you all for your love and support. Chapter 226. Outside Jubao City. A black bull held its head high and swayed its black tail. It walked slowly with an arrogant expression. It did not step on the air, but on the ground as if it was taking a stroll. From top to bottom, and even directly above and around him, there were many supreme treasures floating around him. Their auras were all at the quasi-emperor level, and there were more than 100 of them. That was not all. There were hundreds of talismans and elixirs floating around it. The talismans were all drawn by quasi-emperors, and the elixirs were all heavenly saint grade. There were hundreds of them. Such a scene immediately attracted the attention of countless cultivators. They were all stunned, and their breathing quickened. However, the human cultivators did not go out of the city gate to snatch the elixirs. They knew very well that the young man riding on the back of the black bull was the crown prince of Jubao Pavilion, Wang Kai. They also knew that once Wang Kai left Jubao City, he would be killed mercilessly. Now that they had gathered, they naturally wanted to watch a good show. However, they did not expect Wang Kai to be so rich. I'm afraid that the demon clan cultivators have taken advantage of him this time. Many human cultivators sighed in their hearts. Crack, crack. Wang Kai sat on Niu Zhitian's back calmly. He flicked his fingers and put the heavenly saint-grade elixirs into his mouth. After chewing a few times, he spat them out on the ground like he was spitting saliva. This scene made many cultivators' mouths twitch. Some of them even fainted on the spot. Little Wang, don't be so pretentious. Hurry up and give me a few. Niu Zhitian said unhappily. Wang Kai shrugged casually. He flipped his hand, and dozens of elixirs floated in front of Niu Zhitian. He smiled faintly and said, Eek, Benshao does not lack elixirs. These are just heavenly saint-grade elixirs. They're used to raise demon pets. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Although Niu Zhitian knew that Wang Kai was deliberately bragging, he did not expose him. Instead, he rolled his tongue and swallowed the elixirs one by one. He seemed to be enjoying it. Looking at the appearance of this man and bull, it immediately made countless cultivators roll their eyes. They were all eager to transform into demons and become Wang Kai's demon pet. Crown Prince Wang, you are so handsome. I'm only 18 years old. I'm willing to serve you, even if it is just for one night. I only need to do it once. Your Highness, please grant me my wish. In an instant, many female cultivators expressed their love without the slightest embarrassment. What was face? In front of a heavenly saint-grade elixir? That was a peak-grade medicinal pill from 6 prefectures and 1 island. This despicable Wang Kai. Not only he fed heavenly saint-grade elixirs, but also demon pet. He even attracted so many beauties to recommend themselves to him. Damn it, damn it. Many male cultivators were so angry that their bodies trembled. Their faces were pale, and their eyes were filled with envy. Hee hee, you have good taste. However, I am sorry to say that Ben Shao is such a handsome and extraordinary man. You will never be able to get him in your lifetime. However, it is just a heavenly saint-grade elixir. I will give you some as a reward for your good taste, Wang Kai said with a smile. Then he flipped his hand and took out almost 100 heavenly saint-grade elixirs. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. When the female cultivators heard this, they were embarrassed. However, when the heavenly saint-grade elixirs floated in front of them, they suddenly blushed and said, "Crown Prince Wang, you are such a handsome and extraordinary man. How can we covet you? We are too shameless. Crown Prince Wang, you are too handsome. Even if I can get Crown Prince Wang to caress me, I will have no regrets in my life." Hearing the praise and admiration of the many women, as well as the jealous gazes of the countless male cultivators, Wang Kai felt extremely refreshed. Sigh, Ben Shao is such an awesome person. There aren't many women in this world who are worthy of Ben Shao. It's really lonely and empty. Wang Kai shook his head and sighed. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, there are dozens of experts on the city wall. They can no longer hold it in. They immediately flipped over and stepped into the air. Their faces were ashen as they roared. Wang Kai, I want to fight you to the death. Fight to the death? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard this. He thought to himself that the demon clan had yet to appear, but the human cultivators had already jumped out. He immediately snorted with disdain. Everyone is an enemy. Buzz. A quasi-emperor level supreme treasure flew over. After a green light circled around it, Wang Kai threw it at the dozens of sages. Just a quasi-emperor. Bang. Rumble. In an instant, the quasi-emperor level supreme treasure that had turned into a divine artifact exploded in midair. The dozens of sages were bombarded until their bodies exploded, turning into a rain of blood that rained down from the sky. Divine artifact. It's a divine artifact. Oh my God, isn't that a quasi-emperor level supreme treasure? Why did the aura just now belong to a divine artifact? He was willing to explode a divine artifact to kill the enemy. How rich is Wang Kai? Then the other nearly 100 items? Are they also divine artifacts? No. What did I see? This can't be real. Damn it. Damn it. Many cultivators widened their eyes and stared at Wang Kai in horror. Envy and jealousy turned into strong hatred. However, in the end, it turned into fear. No one dared to step out of the city wall to cause trouble. After all, the power of a divine artifact's explosion was so powerful that even an emperor among the sages would have to avoid it. You're just a sage. Why are you acting tough in front of Ben Shao? Ben Shao won't get any benefits from killing you. How unlucky. Wang Kai spat with a dark face. He had thought that killing a sage would give him experience points as a reward. However, in the end, there was no experience points at all. From this, it could be seen that with Wang Kai's current martial arts realm, he could only get experience points by killing a sage king or above. When the crowd heard this, their mouths twitched violently. They stood on the city wall, trembling all over. They all shouted in their hearts, "Masters of the demon clan, quickly come out and kill this man. This is so infuriating. He's so good at acting tough, and he's pretending that no one dares to resist him. Little Wang, I didn't expect you to have the ability to turn a quasi-imperial artifact into a divine artifact. However, what you did just now was too wasteful. Why don't you turn those talismans into imperial artifacts? Although it's not as powerful as a divine artifact's explosion, it's not bad in other aspects." Nyoja Tian stuck out his tongue and chewed on a pill. Turning a divine artifact into a divine artifact would give him special power? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard this. He sensed the aura of the demon clan's masters hiding in the depths of the forest. He squinted his eyes and smiled. Ben Shao will try it later. At that moment, Nyoja Tian and Wang Kai were gradually approaching the forest. Chapter 227. Wang Kai could clearly sense that the Demon Clan experts who were hiding in the dark were at most at the peak of the Sage Realm. Most of them were at the Great Emperor Realm, and there were at most 100 Saint Realm monsters. However, the explosion of a holy weapon and the death of dozens of Saint Realm monsters did not deter the monster cultivators. They had no choice but to step aside. Could it be that the monster cultivators still had some tricks up their sleeves? Otherwise, they would be digging their own graves. They knew they were no match for the monster cultivators. So why did they hide in the dark and wait for an opportunity to kill him? Killing one is a sin, slaughtering 10,000 is a hero, and slaughtering 9 million is a hero among heroes. This young master has already broken one of his sins and is now a hero with the blood of hundreds of thousands of creatures. What is missing should be the blood of 8 million creatures. When the time comes, I will definitely become a hero among heroes. I just wonder if the monster race masters can fulfill this young master's wish. Wang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly as he spoke with a playful smile. Swoosh! At that moment, Neoja Tian stopped and stood in the middle of the forest. The trees rustled in the wind, and a ferocious monster chi swept across the sky. We monsters are willing to die for the myriad monsters' palace. We will take Wang Kai's life. We monsters are willing to die for the myriad monsters' palace. We will take Wang Kai's life. Swoosh! 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 In an instant, hundreds of monsters appeared from all directions. There were tigers, leopards, snakes, wolves, and so on. They were all at the Saint Realm. Roar! 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 Thousands more monsters appeared. Their chi was much weaker than before, but they were all at the Great Emperor Realm. Their eyes were red, and they looked like they had gone mad. After roaring, they rushed forward and surrounded Wang Kai. Then, their bodies suddenly expanded. They are going to explode. Wang Kai's pupils suddenly shrank when he saw this. He hurriedly pointed his finger. When dozens of talismans flew over, he said softly, "Soldiers in grass and trees. Buzz! Buzz! Rumble! Rumble!" In an instant, the bodies of those demonic beasts exploded one after another. The terrifying power of the explosion shook the earth endlessly, and the surrounding trees and forests were all turned into ashes. For a time, smoke and dust arose in all directions, rocks flew into the air, and the ground was overturned. The sand that was stirred up was mixed with the blood of countless demon beasts, and it drifted into the air and suffused the air, causing the pungent smell of blood to arouse nausea. A huge mushroom cloud soared into the sky, with Wang Kai as the center, spreading out for hundreds of miles in all directions. Everything was shrouded in mist and dust. The powerful impact and sound immediately shocked all the cultivators in the city. Even saint rulers were unable to see through the dust and smoke. From this, one could see how powerful the explosion of thousands of eternal demon emperors and hundreds of saintly demons was. The demon race is indeed terrifying, as expected of the pantheon of demons of the demon continent. Thousands of demons are willing to detonate themselves to die. No, if there was anyone who was frightening, it should be Wang Kai. If not for the fact that those demons knew they were no match for him, why would they choose to detonate themselves to kill him? Even a Saint Emperor Realm expert would be doomed if caught in the explosion of such a group of demons. Many of the cultivators were shocked to the extreme. Their hearts were beating nonstop. Such a powerful scene had already been deeply imprinted in the depths of their hearts. Prince, Duan Dowd, and the experts of Endless Treasures Pavilion were livid. If not for the saint rulers stopping them, Duan Dowd would have already rushed out. However, the Empress of Fan Continent had ordered that no one was to interfere with Wang Kai's affairs. Even if they did, what could the Endless Treasures Pavilion's saint rulers do? Even a saint emperor would perish if caught in the explosion. Kiki, even a saint emperor would perish if caught in the explosion. We'll have to see if they can meet a saint emperor realm expert. Just like Ben Shao, even a saint emperor among saints can't do anything to him. What can a mere saint emperor do? Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Suddenly, a light laugh sounded slowly, accompanied by a gust of wind that blew away all the smoke and dust. Wang Kai was sitting on Nyoja Tian's back, unharmed. Even his clothes were not stained by the dust. Around Wang Kai and Nyoja Tian, everything had turned into a bottomless pit. The jungle had disappeared, and it was replaced by a pit that was hundreds of miles deep. Only the place where Wang Kai and Nyoja Tian were standing was left with a stone pillar to stand on. He's not dead. How is this possible? Could he be an emperor among saints? No, impossible. Even an emperor among saint emperors would have to avoid the power of that explosion. It's impossible for them to let it invade their bodies. But he didn't leave the center of the explosion. Many cultivators were so shocked that their expressions changed drastically. Some of them were so frightened that their bodies became unstable and they almost fell off the city wall. Everything was too strange. They didn't want to believe that Wang Kai, who was just a saint emperor, could survive the explosion of a group of beasts. Furthermore, he had survived by taking on all the power of the explosion. How strong was Wang Kai? How boring. Those beasts exploded, and in the end, Bin Xiao didn't get any benefits. The pantheon of monsters, can't you send some Saint Kings here? Wang Kai sneered disdainfully and patted Nyo Zhetian's head. Whoosh, whoosh. Nyo Zhetian shook his head and snorted. Then he jumped up and disappeared from everyone's sight. However, what had just happened would definitely shock the entire 6 states and 1 island. Even the pantheon of monsters would be shocked. I had to use nearly 100 Dao talismans that had turned into sacred artifacts in order to counteract the power of the explosion. Looks like I have underestimated the demon race. High up in the sky, Wang Kai sighed emotionally. He couldn't imagine that there would be creatures in the world who would destroy their own lives for others. That's good. According to my observation, you can turn holy talismans and holy talismans into holy talismans, but you only have the shape, not the soul. If you could even create a soul, a holy talisman would have been enough to counteract the explosion. Nyo Zhetian shook his head and said, Only one holy talisman? Wang Kai frowned. He couldn't help but think. The Flora soldiers could turn anything into a holy talisman, but it could only make things hard. As for the soul that Nyo Zhetian mentioned, is it like the weapon spirit in the magic tool and the spiritual power in the talisman? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and asked curiously. Whoosh! Nyo Zhetian snorted and said, That's right. That talisman contains spiritual strength. It must be a talisman made by a cultivator. Even though I don't know what kind of technique you used, it can only increase the strength of a talisman. It can't reach the level of a holy talisman. Chapter 228. Wang Kai frowned. He had never cultivated spiritual energy. Even though he was a Saint King, he could not draw talismans himself. As for the Flora weapon, it could turn anything into a holy weapon, but it could not give a weapon spirit to a weapon. However, talisman cultivators of the spirit path are quite powerful. They were able to block the explosion with just a talisman. It seems that Bin Xiao should cultivate talisman cultivators in the future. Wang Kai smiled faintly. Bang! Nyo Zhetian was disdainful. He said disdainfully, Little Wang, do you know what the talismans used by talisman cultivators are made of? It's just a piece of paper. What else could it be? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and smiled rather speechlessly. Wrong. Very wrong. Talisman cultivators use the skin of any living creature to draw talismans. Even a holy level talisman cultivator needs a holy level talisman cultivator to draw talismans. Nyo Zhetian said coldly, The skin of any living creature? Hearing this, Wang Kai suddenly felt a chill all over his body. He couldn't help but look at the Dao talismans floating around. He frowned and said with disgust, Then these Dao talismans, aren't they made from the skin of living creatures? Of course, no matter whether it is the monster clan or the human clan, as long as they belong to the heaven and earth, they can use their skin to draw talisman inscriptions. It is also called a medium. Spiritual energy is the source of power. Only when the two are combined can the power of talisman cultivators of the spirit path be released. If you want to cultivate spirit path and become a talisman cultivator, the first thing you need to do is to peel off the skin of living creatures. You need to draw talisman inscriptions on it. As for spiritual energy, any living creature is born with it. For example, a martial artist uses the heaven and earth's spiritual chi to transform it into battle chi. A talisman cultivator uses the heaven and earth's spiritual chi to transform it into spiritual energy. As Nyoja Tian explained the key points of talisman cultivator in detail, Wang Kai had already lost interest in it. Although the power of talisman cultivator was strange, he still felt a little tired of carrying the skin of living creatures around with him every day. No wonder Nyoja Tian said that a single talisman would be able to withstand the explosion of the demons. Dao talismans were made from the skin of sage-level cultivators. Coupled with the spirit energy of talisman cultivators, it would be strange if they weren't strong. However, Wang Kai was extremely disgusted by this method. If it was the skin of a demon, it would be fine. After all, many Dharma artifacts and arrays use the bones of demon beasts. But human skin, when Wang Kai thought about it, he felt goosebumps all over his body. Although Wang Kai didn't know if there was a human expert skin among these talismans, he didn't want to use them until he was sure. A mere talisman cultivator, it doesn't matter if you don't cultivate. It was just a Dao talisman, so there was no need for it. For someone as awesome as Ben Shao, why would he need to rely on such a disgusting method to defend himself? Wang Kai snorted in disdain. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Papa, Nyoja Tian's face was full of disdain. He sneered and said, "Then why do you still keep these talismans? Why don't you just throw them away?" Throw them away? Ben Shao didn't use them, but that doesn't mean others don't use them. As the saying goes, don't do unto others what you don't want done unto you. Since there are people who like them, Ben Shao is more than happy to sell them to them in exchange for some spiritual stones. Why not? Wang Kai shrugged and smiled. With a flip of his hand, he put all the talismans into his space ring. When Nyoja Tian saw this, he despised Wang Kai even more. However, he didn't want to argue with Wang Kai. The more Nyoja Tian refuted, the more pretentious he became. Host, if you activate the talisman cultivator's ability, you can draw anything to defend yourself. When Wang Kai heard the prompt, he raised his eyebrows. It seemed that the system wanted him to become a talisman cultivator. He hated talisman cultivators, but the system took the initiative to prompt him. What do you mean? Wang Kai asked with a frown. Host, as the owner of the system, I must be an omnipotent cultivator. When Wang Kai heard this, the corners of his mouth twitched violently. However, being an omnipotent cultivator wasn't bad. It was a great tool to act pretentious. Drawing anything to defend myself doesn't require the skin of a living creature, right? Wang Kai squinted his eyes and asked expectantly, Host, anything can be used to defend yourself. How many bragging points do I need to activate the talisman cultivator's ability? Wang Kai asked with a strange look on his face. Host, to activate the talisman cultivator's ability, you need to cultivate the spiritual path and spiritual book. Only 10 points. When Wang Kai heard the prompt, his face lit up. He waved his hand and said, Cultivate the spiritual book. Congratulations to host for successfully cultivating the spiritual path and spiritual book. 9 bragging points have been used. Congratulations to host for successfully activating the talisman cultivator's ability. You have received a Death God brush. Host, Wang Kai occupation, warrior, talisman cultivator auxiliary occupation, alchemist realm. First grade holy king cultivation techniques, everlasting holy soul technique, elixir book, spiritual book martial skills, earth shrink, gate of time, palm print 8 desolation, thunderclap sword, myriad demon body transformation, vitality bullet equipment, Tower of Babel, cauldron of 9 dragons, death god brush bloodline, Level 8 bragging points, 620 experience, 70000800000. Talisman cultivator isn't an auxiliary occupation. It doesn't have an independent realm like alchemists. Is it the same as a warrior's realm? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows in surprise. Swish! Wang Kai couldn't hold back his loneliness and immediately took out the god-slaying brush. It was a foot long and completely black. It looked like an ordinary brush, but it was slightly longer. Death God Brush. It's the Death God Brush. Little Wang, where did you get it? Don't tell me it's also from your mysterious hometown? Nyoja Tian suddenly stopped moving. He tilted his head and stared at Wang Kai with his big black eyes. He knew it too. Wang Kai was quite surprised when he heard this, but he still smiled indifferently. It's just a god-punishing brush. I just used it to practice calligraphy when I was a child. What's so surprising about it? Congratulations to the host for bragging successfully. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for breaking through to the second grade Holy King stage. Little Wang, don't go overboard with your bragging. The Death God brush dates back to ancient times. It was the first brush used by talisman cultivators of the spirit path. It could even be used to draw talismans to defend against enemies. Nyoja Tian snorted. Ancient times? The first brush used by talisman cultivators of the spirit path? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard that. He held the Death God brush and drew the word thunder in the air. Crackle. In an instant, a purple-white thunderbolt shot out. It was as thick as a thigh and extended from top to bottom. It quietly floated in front of Wang Kai. Go. Wang Kai was excited when he saw that. He waved the Death God brush and pointed it downwards. The purple-white lightning in the sky immediately fell and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Rumble, rumble. A deep pit as thick as a person's thigh appeared on the ground. Without seeing the talisman, there is no need for talisman markings. With just the air, one could draw talismans. Wang Kai played with the god-punishing brush and suddenly felt very excited. He couldn't help but have an evil thought. If I use this brush to draw the word take off for a beautiful woman in the future, then wouldn't her dress be? Ahem. Ben Xiao was the most upright person in the world. How could he do such a despicable thing? Even if he wanted to do it, he would choose a female celestial master to try it on. Wang Kai smiled. Congratulations to the host for bragging successfully. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. It's already a reverse V. Cough, cough. Is there any fellow Taoist who want a full subscription? Chapter 229. Drawing talismans in the air and using words as talismans. Are you a cultivator of the spirit book? Nyoja Tian asked. Even the god-punishing brush had to draw runes on the Tao talisman in order to unleash its strange power. Wang Kai didn't need to draw talismans to display the power of talismans. Nyoja Tian knew that only cultivators of the spirit book could do that. Wang Kai was surprised. He raised his eyebrows and asked, How long have you lived? How do you know about the ancient times? I have only lived for tens of thousands of years. I don't know much about the ancient times. However, I know about treasures like the Death God brush. For example, the Death God brush and the Spirit Book appear at the same time. If you don't cultivate the Spirit Book, the Death God brush can only increase the power of talismans. You can't use air and words to draw talismans. Nyoja Tian said. In that case, wouldn't this young master be able to act tough again? Wang Kai smiled indifferently, cleared his throat, and said softly, The Spirit Book is just something I drew when I practiced calligraphy with the god-punishing brush when I was a child. What is there to be surprised about? It's boring. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Bang! Bang! Nyoja Tian's nose twitched when he heard that. He stared at Wang Kai and shouted, Bastard, get off my back! I can't listen to you anymore. Freeze! Suddenly, Wang Kai took out the Death God brush and pointed it at Nyoja Tian's back, drawing the word fix. Swoosh! Neoja Tion's body stiffened, and he fell from the sky. Bang! Boom! When Neoja Tion fell to the ground, cracks appeared on the ground. Wang Kai sat on his back and smiled indifferently. He said, "You're not part of the 3 realms or the 5 elements. You can't even block Benshio's word. You're really weak. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points." Bang! Bang! When Neoja Tion heard that, he started breathing heavily. His black eyes were wide open as he crouched on the ground and shouted, "Little boy Wang, if you have guts, don't use the Death God brush and the all-living things / skill. Let's have a good fight. If you can hurt me, I won't be surnamed Neo. Even if you change your surname, you are still a cow." Wang Kai smiled faintly. Then, he held the God Slayer brush and made another stroke. This time, he drew 2 words. Dance. Schwa. After finishing the 2 words, Wang Kai immediately floated and sat in the void, watching with a rather playful expression. Bang! 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 Neoja Tion's face was full of shame and anger. He stood up and started jumping around in circles. It was more like he was kicking his hind legs than dancing. Little boy, let's talk. A gentleman uses his mouth, not his fists. Neoja Tion shouted. At that moment, Neoja Tion's front hooves were on the ground, and his whole body was upside down. His tail and his hind hooves were swaying in the air. It was a very funny sight. Hee, Death God Brush and Spiritual Book are a perfect match. Looks like I have to find a way to meet the Empress of Fanzhou and make her perform an erotic dance in front of this young master. TSK, TSK. Wang Kai began to think evilly in his heart. Using the air to draw talismans didn't require any talismans, or spiritual energy. He could do it secretly, and it would be hard to detect. Wang Kai, long time no see. Schwa. A rather familiar voice sounded, causing Wang Kai to frown slightly. He narrowed his eyes and looked up at the sky in amusement. High up in the sky, there were 3 figures standing in the air, and the person who spoke was a young man in the lead. Beside him were 2 gray-robed old men with white hair on their temples. The little Rock King, Rock 9. Hee, what are you doing here? Could it be that you're also here because of the king-killing order issued by the 5 great Phoenix clans? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and smiled indifferently. He didn't expect the Little Rock King to have reached the peak of the Saint Realm. Although the Little Rock King was still not as strong as him, his cultivation speed had surpassed Liu Yao's. The Great Rock King, the Rock King, and the human clan were really powerful. I'm here to return a favor, Rock 9 said indifferently. He glanced at the 2 old men beside him, and under his signal, the 2 old men disappeared into the void. Wang Kai raised his brow when he saw this, a playful look on his face as he shrugged his shoulders and smiled. That would be great. You and I are both from Fanzhou. This young master really doesn't want to kill you. I just don't know how you plan to repay this favor. Schwa. 2 golden wings suddenly sprouted from Little Rock King's back. He said, Golden Feather 3, transformations. Change my ass. Fix. Wang Kai's face darkened. He turned his hand and drew the word fix. The Little Rock King, who was about to transform, froze and fell from the sky. Plop. The Little Rock King swallowed a mouthful of yellow soil. He was so angry that his face turned green. He spat a few times and said coldly, What kind of skill is this? Do talisman cultivators have such skills? Although Wang Kai was holding a brush, he did not see the existence of a Dao talisman, nor did he see him draw any runes. There was also no fluctuation of spiritual power. Under such circumstances, the Little Rock King naturally did not believe that Wang Kai was a talisman cultivator. However, his moves were so strange. Bin Xiao has many tricks up his sleeves. If we're talking about talisman cultivators, Bin Xiao was the ancestor of all talismans. Were these insignificant tricks? Wang Kai said with a disdainful smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. The Little Rock King did not believe it at all. If Wang Kai was really so capable, would he have been captured and brought back to the palace? Then what level is your martial realm now? The little Rock King asked with an ugly expression. Earlier, he had only wanted to test Wang Kai's strength. In the end, before he could even test Wang Kai's strength, Wang Kai had already subdued him with a flip of his hand. This was a huge blow to the little Rock King, who had reached the Sage Realm. It's not too high. The sky can't cover it. It's not too deep. The earth can't measure it. Well, to put it simply, I've reached the peak. I can dominate 6 states and 1 island. Wang Kai shrugged and smiled proudly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. I've already broken the limit of my previous updates. I'm still working hard. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 230. Brat Wong, stop bragging. Let go of Grandpa Nyo. Bang, 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 bang. Nyo Zhodian was extremely embarrassed. He had lived for tens of thousands of years and had never been humiliated like this. Keep dancing. Wang Kai glanced at him mockingly, then looked at Little Peng King and said with a faint smile, How are you going to repay Ben Xiao? I am here to give you a piece of advice. In front of you, there are experts from the Peacock clan waiting for you. Even if you're lucky enough to escape, there are experts from the Kunping clan, Golden Winged Rock clan, Dragon clan, and Phoenix clan lying in ambush behind you. The demonic beasts outside of Treasure City just want to see your strength, Little Rock King said in a low voice. The 5 major clans of the Pantheon of Demons were all here. Was there need to mobilize so many people? Wang Kai suddenly felt speechless. He frowned and laughed. Ben Xiao is indeed very awesome. The 5 major clans of the Pantheon of Demons are all here to hunt you down. But in Ben Xiao's eyes, they're just farts. Clear your intestines, and you will all collapse. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Little Peng King's face stiffened when he heard this. The corner of his mouth twitched as he said, Your guts are still so big, and your bragging skills are still so strong. I will not waste time with you. If you can break through the territory of the Peacock clan, I will think of a way to let you pass when you reach the territory of the Golden Winged Rock clan. As for the rest, you can only resign yourself to fate. Territory? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard this. He asked with a surprised expression, What do you mean? Will I pass by the territory of the 5 major clans? Little Peng King's eyes widened when he heard this. He said in shock, Are you going to the Pantheon of Demons without knowing anything? Although Wang Kai liked to brag, in Little Peng King's eyes, he was not the kind of person who was bold but not smart. But now, it seemed that he was thinking too much. What does Ben Xiao need to know? The Pantheon of Demons is nothing. If we want to reach the Pantheon of Demons, we will have to pass through the territory of the 5 strongest species, which is perfect for Ben Xiao. As it happens, Ben Xiao is looking for some guards, servants, and coachmen. Wang Kai smiled casually. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Guards, servants, coachmen. Little Rock King's eyes widened when he heard this. His facial muscles twitched as if they were spasming. His face was rather ashen as he gave a thumbs up. He gritted his teeth and praised, You're awesome. Let me go. I'm going back to the ancestral land. We're going back just like that. Are you here to make fun of Ben Xiao? It's just a piece of useless advice, and you want to return the favor? Wang Kai shrugged and said with a playful smile. Then what do you want? Although my position in the great Golden Winged Peng race is not bad, I can't help you charge into the ancestral land of the other 4 strongest species and kill them all. Little Rock King said with an ugly expression. He really regretted coming here. He did not expect that his personal advice would be in exchange for Wang Kai's indifference. This situation caused the Little Rock King to ponder deeply. Could it be that the advice from before was really useless? But thinking about it, it really was not very useful. Such advice was just to persuade Wang Kai to turn back. But if he did not want to turn back, didn't he still have to enter the ancestral land of the 5 strongest species? Whether he lived or died, It was already impossible to change. All right, Bin Xiao is just joking with you. You and I are both from Fan Province. Even if our identities are different outside Fan Province, if possible, Bin Xiao is really unwilling to kill you. Let's go. Wang Kai shrugged and smiled indifferently. He lightly waved his hand and drew with his brush. As the word release was drawn, Little Rock King immediately regained his freedom. Humph, if possible, I also don't want to be your enemy. But we will have to fight in the end. I hope you can come to the ancestral land of the great golden-winged Peng race alive. Little Rock King snorted coldly. He immediately stepped into the air and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Wang Kai frowned slightly. He did not expect to pass through the ancestral land of the 5 strongest species on his way to the pantheon of monsters. If they met at the monster conference, with the identity of the imperial prince of the Trove of Treasures Pavilion, the elders of the 5 strongest species would not dare to attack him directly. But if they ran into the ancestral land of the great golden-winged Peng race, wouldn't they be able to kill him however they wanted? But he had already bragged. If he could not fulfill his promise and went back halfway, wouldn't he become a laughingstock? Thinking about this, Wang Kai shook his head and sighed. He waved his brush and drew the word release. Buzz. Plop. Neoja Tian fell to the ground, gasping for breath. He stared at Wang Kai angrily and said, Little brat, you've gone too far. Let's go to the ancestral land of the peacock race first. Are you a mule or a cow? It's time to show them who you are. Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders and said with a smile. Clap. Neoja Tian snorted and said disdainfully, If Mama Yuri was still here, I would have given him some face. But now he's just a useless clan. Clap. Wang Kai immediately clapped his hands and gave him a thumbs up. He praised him and said, Awesome. What a great boast. Since that's the case, when we arrive at the ancestral land of the peacock race, you will fight in the first battle. Master Neo wants to fight. No matter who comes, they won't be able to hurt me, said Neoja Tian mockingly. Wang Kai squinted his eyes when he heard this. He couldn't help but think of a beautiful figure. He smiled and said, I wonder if that little peacock is still alive. The Tiani mountain range was extremely cold and silent. Not even the sound of birds could be heard. The forest was so dense that sunlight could not penetrate it. When Wang Kai stepped into the border of the mountain range, Lord Neo suddenly stopped in his tracks. Little brat, don't make any noise. If you enter the territory of the peacock race quietly, they won't attack you even if they want to kill you. But if you make any noise and annoy them, you will be in trouble. Neoja Tian said telepathically. Peacocks like to be quiet. Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders when he heard this. He had already entered the territory of the peacock race, and the phoenix race had issued the order to kill the peacock race. Even if he did not provoke the peacock race, what could they do? Wasn't it inevitable to fight? Wang Kai immediately shouted, Peacock race, listen up. Male peacocks, go away. Female peacocks who can transform, come out. Bin Xiao wants to choose a few beautiful ones to be Bin Xiao's personal maids. Yes, it is your honor. Congratulations to the host for successfully boasting. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the 3rd rank Holy King realm. Dear fellow Taoists, please don't be anxious. This is because I want to guarantee the quality and make your subscription worth it. Therefore, I must strive for the best. Thank you for your support, fellow Taoists. Chapter 231. Howl! Howl! Suddenly, a series of extremely unpleasant muffled cries sounded, as if someone's throat was broken. Wang Kai frowned and couldn't help but raise his hand to cover his ears. He scolded with a rather speechless black face. You guys better stop shouting. This kind of sound is really unpleasant to the ears. Neoja Tian was grinding his teeth in anger. When he heard Wang Kai's words, he was even more furious. He shouted, You've angered them. Why don't you let them make noise? Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, peacocks flew out from the depths of the forest. There were tens of thousands of them. Furthermore, at this moment, all of them had spread their tails like peacocks. The five-colored golden lines on their tails flickered with a glaring radiance. Especially the purple, blue, brown, yellow, red, and other colors gathered together to form a circular eye-shaped spot. They were like pairs of eyes. If one were to look carefully, one would involuntarily feel fear and disgust in one's heart. You're not bad. When you knew that Ben Xiao was here, you showed up to show your beauty. Unfortunately, Ben Xiao can only choose the prettiest peacock to be his servant. So, you can all transform into human form. Ben Xiao will choose carefully. Wang Kai smiled indifferently. He looked like he didn't want the peacocks if they weren't pretty. Congratulations to the host for bragging successfully. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Nioja Tian opened his eyes wide. He really wanted to know how Wang Kai knew that the peacocks had spread their tails to welcome him. That was clearly a passive defense after being frightened. Okay? The peacocks were also angry. The leader of the peacocks said coldly, "Human, are you the crown prince of the Jubao building, Wang Kai? We peacocks didn't want to kill you, but you disrespected us. Die." Swoosh. The peacock leader opened his mouth and spoke in human language, but his voice was extremely masculine. As soon as his voice fell, the many eye-shaped markings on his tail emitted a golden light and blasted towards Wang Kai. The speed of the golden light was strange, and its aura was extremely cold. For a moment, the surrounding temperature dropped to the extreme. Male? Could it be that you didn't hear what this young master said just now? Don't you understand that males should F***CK off? Or do you not differentiate between males and females? Wang Kai cursed with a gloomy face. He immediately flipped his hand, took out the god execution brush, and drew in the air. Self-mutilating feathers. Swoosh! As the 4 words were drawn, the peacock in the distance became stiff. Then, under the astonished gazes of the other peacocks, it opened its mouth and bent its neck to peck at its own feathers. Every time it bit a 5-colored feather, it would be bitten off and it would spit it out. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As for the cold golden light that shot towards Wang Kai, it immediately dissipated in midair due to the current situation of the person who cast it. You're only at the peak of the sage realm. Ben Xiao can't be bothered to kill you. You can slowly peck at your feathers. Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain and looked at the peacocks. The peacocks shuddered when they saw this, and they began to roar in panic. Their tails flickered as they opened and contracted, and beams of golden light pierced toward Wang Kai. Black lines appeared on Wang Kai's forehead as he looked at the gloomy and cold golden light that filled the sky. The most powerful peacock present was only at the peak of the Saint Realm. There were many quasi-emperors, and even emperors among them. Where did they get the courage to attack him? Transform. Swoosh. Wang Kai flipped his hand and drew another line with a god-punishing brush. After the 2 words were drawn, the tens of thousands of peacocks stiffened. After a burst of 5-colored light, they turned into human forms. They could transform when they reached the Demon General Realm. The weakest peacock present was at the Emperor Realm. Their transformation was dazzling. Males, get down. Whoosh. Wang Kai frowned and drew another line with a brush in displeasure. After the 4 words appeared, most of the males among the tens of thousands of peacocks laid down in the air. Ugly ones, get down. Whoosh. Old ones, get down. Whoosh. Young ones, get down. Whoosh. Then, under the control of Wang Kai's brush, there were still nearly 10,000 peacocks left standing in the air. The youngest was 15 or 16 years old, while the oldest was 27 or 28 years old. All of them were as beautiful as flowers and had extremely seductive figures. Especially at this moment, their eyes were filled with shame and anger. It was a unique style. That little girl is not here. Although these peacocks are not bad, they are still far inferior to Kong Ro. Wang Kai frowned and thought to himself. If Wang Kai's plan was to find a few beautiful peacocks to be his maids after coming to the Skyene mountain range, he completely thought of Kong Ro, the little peacock he had met in the Shenwu Academy. Kong Ro was indeed a little beauty. With some nurturing, she would definitely be very attractive. How dare you? Even if you're the crown prince of the treasure trove pavilion and have the support of the Empress of Fanzhou, you should still show some respect when you come to the Peacock Clan Sky in Mountain Range. Suddenly, a stern voice resounded through the forest. Then, a strong pressure descended from the sky and directly broke Wang Kai's spiritual path. Many peacocks were released and hurriedly transformed back into their demonic beast forms in a panic. They fluttered back into the dense forest. They can actually break Ben Shao's spiritual energy binding. This pressure must be above that of a holy ruler. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and looked at the few figures that slowly floated out of the dense forest. 4 figures appeared in the sky and stood opposite Wang Kai. The one in the lead was an old woman, and there were 2 beautiful women around the age of 20 by her side. Based on their dressing and bearing, they should be servant girls. Behind them, there was a pretty figure. She was about 15 or 16 years old and wore a red dress. She was staring at Wang Kai with her big, beautiful eyes. She looked as if she had seen a ghost. Kong Ro. Wang Kai's eyes lit up at this moment. He ignored the old woman and looked straight at Kong Ro. He smiled playfully and said, Ro, how about you be Ben Shao's personal maid? Ro. Hearing this, Kong Ro's pretty face instantly turned red. She pursed her lips tightly and her eyes flashed. She actually nodded lightly on the spot. Agreed? So fast. It seems that Ben Shao is really charming. That is. Wang Kai's pupils suddenly shrank. Just as he was about to brag, he saw that there were bruises on Kong Ro's exposed snow-white arms and calves. You know Wang Kai, the prince of Treasure Trove Pavilion? Kneel down and tell me the truth. Bang! The old woman shouted angrily. She flipped her palm and slapped Kong Ro's shoulder. Immediately, Kong Ro's delicate body went limp. She cried out in pain and knelt in the air. Tears of grievance suddenly appeared in her big, beautiful eyes. Can you help me? Wang Kai. Kong Ro pursed her lips tightly and looked at Wang Kai with a forced smile. The 9th update is presented. Thank you all for your support and love. Thank you, Piao Hong, for the 10,000 tip that allowed me to successfully break my virginity. I respectfully welcome the birth of the first branch leader. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.